2012 at 7:30 regarding the adoption of a local law of the Village of New Paltz for the year 2012, which will seek to amend Chapter 207 of the Village Code regarding water.
Is there anyone here to speak to that public law? If you have something, Mark, of course.
I prepared a short overview of what is being recommended tonight, and I will read it. Copies have been given to the board. You may find it helpful if people have questions later on, that this gives a little bit of an overview of what we presented before. There are really three types of water and sewer rent systems. One is a flat rate system, one is a bulk discount system, and one is conservation pricing, which is being proposed tonight. Flat rate, which you have been working under, is equitable when the users are basically the same type of users, that is primarily small residential users. Bulk discount is for communities with abundant supply, little advanced treatment, and a single industrial user. And conservation pricing is most equitable with mixed uses, several very large users, and scarce supply. The Village of New Paltz falls into the latter category. It finds itself in need of increasing its revenue, facing steep supply costs and infrastructure needs, while serving a residential population whose usage is greatly outstripped by several large institutional users who are driving the cost of the system in regards to capacity and treatment. Basically, under conservation pricing, the more water that is used, the more the customer pays by volume. It's called a step system. Because of the cost savings from using less water, conservation pricing does two things. It encourages water conservation by the larger users, and it recognizes the impact of the larger users on the system. It's the largest customers who cause the village to need more capacity and more treatment, and it is the same large volume users who have the ability to cut their consumption by the greatest volume, thereby saving the environment and the system. The current system sets a minimum for those who use up to 3,740 gallons per quarter. The new system has 4,000 gallons per quarter as a minimum, and up to 20,000 gallons per quarter at the same per gallon rate charge. The 4,000 gallon cost is $18.75 for water and $17.50 for sewer, which equals less than ½ cent per gallon used during the quarter. All customers will see approximately a 20% increase in their water and sewer rents, and the highest usage customers will see an additional 10% increase in their rents as their usage creeps into each step. So each step is a 10% step. The water and sewer funds will see an increase in revenues without a significant burden being placed on the minimum user. And that's basically what's being proposed tonight. And I'm happy to answer any questions the public has or the board continues to have about that recommendation.
Thank you for the cheat sheet. Just curious, it's saying that without a significant burden being placed on the minimum user, yet at the same time as all customers will see a 20% increase.
Yeah, there's a 20% increase, but to achieve the revenue generation that the village needs to fix its system, the small users will only be paying $2.75 more per quarter for water, and what it is for sewer, what the comparison is. But it's a very small dollar figure. It's it's large in percentage because they're paying so little for their water. So it goes from $64 per quarter for water to $75, and it goes from $58 per quarter. No, $64 for the whole year for water, and $58 for the whole year for sewer. It goes to $75 a year for water and $70 a year for sewer. That's fair in that everybody's going up, but the large users are going up significantly more. And that will encourage them to use less water.
Karen, you may have not gone. Thanks, Ashley.
Or no, I gave her one.
No, that's
The rate.
That's the
The
rate.
rate, that's good to know. Thanks. So she doesn't get.
Right.
Any other questions, public, for the board? Then I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And next, I suppose, Katie, is your up.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of New Paltz on October 10th, 2012, immediately following the first public hearing. The first public hearing will begin at 7:30 regarding the adoption of a local law of the Village of New Paltz for the year 2012, which will seek to amend the water rates for the Village of New Paltz.
Is there anyone here to speak to this or questions?
I think so, the question.
Thank you, David.
This will obviously tie in to the water statute. Sewer statutes are set up a little differently than water statutes are, but the sewer statute in the past had various mechanisms for measuring both the use and the strength of the sewage that was generated by different users, whether industrial or educational or residential. And frankly, those mechanisms for determining the rates were not being used. Theoretically, we were supposed to be doing an annual assessment of the rates and then allocating between industrial and institutional and commercial and residential. And that really hadn't been done because we didn't have the mechanism to do it. So what we're doing is we're modernizing the statute, tying it into the usage, to the water usage, and just again bringing the statute into what's actually being done, what's actually been done by the village over the last 20 plus years. While we were at it, we also, in conjunction with the DPW, included some modifications regarding billing and shutoffs and restarts. Just again, bringing into the statute what's actually being done on the ground. We did raise a fee for the shutoff and the turn back on the turn-ons because that was at such a low rate that the village is actually losing money from a real dollar standpoint by sending out a worker to do it. That now brings it closer to reality. And so again, this ties into the water, but it's really a modernization of your statute to bring it in accordance with what you're already doing.
Thank you. And David, Mark, can you just introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Mention that people might want to know who you are.
Sure. My name is David Merzig. I'm from the law firm of Keough and Merzig in Oneonta. I do a lot of municipal work. I represent 10 municipalities in upstate New York. I represent many in the Catskill district. We also do consulting. I do consulting work for municipalities on water and sewer issues. And I was contacted by Sally, and we were retained together with Keough Consulting, to put together a comprehensive modification of your water and sewer statutes, which is what is before you today and what you're voting on. And by the way, again, we'll be working with you with the implementation. You folks know it, but again, your audience may not. Is we also have worked with the treasurer, with the clerks that are going to be handling this process. We've worked on together with a billing system so that as these things are generated, as you go through a billing cycle, and a second billing cycle and a third billing cycle, we know what's going to be implemented. If there are issues that are raised, we'll be here to help you get through it and get your staff through it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Anyone else here to speak to this law?
I mean, I do have something I was just kind of thinking about. Do these types of things generally bring out a lot of public? Because I'm noticing the public hearing is there.
It's a very esoteric issue. And I believe that once your rates go into effect and people get their first bill, you will hear from them.
Right.
Because this is a change. And you know, until you send out your first bill.
Right.
My experience is it's good to be prepared to answer. That's why I did my little cheat sheet.
Right.
Partly
Call
so
it a
that,
cheat sheet.
well,
Call it an information sheet.
information.
Actually, anybody would be gratified.
Right, my information sheet.
Right.
So that when you get those calls and someone says, wait a minute, my bill really changed, you'll say, well, this is why we did it, and this is how. I mean, I know your meetings have been televised, and anyone who's watching that will understand that we've been working toward this process.
Sure.
But it's not surprising that no one, it's just an issue that people go, oh, water and sewer.
Really?
I mean, I run into that all the time because that's primarily what I do, and people are all like, until we get there, until it means something up there.
Well, because when it's budget season, you have people come out and they're, like, I can't have my taxes go up. This is a big deal, and you figure water sewer rates, you see some of them, and I just wonder if
I think you will see it once they get the
when
first
they get their first bill. know.
I think you're right, but I have talked to some people.
Maybe they understand it's
The
about
need.
Well, it's justifiable. I
Well,
think.
well,
yeah.
that's exactly it. Like the people I've talked to have recognized that this is about conservation as well, and they think that this is a great idea, even if it's raising their rates a little bit. But I think that probably
Listen,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
I hope that's really the case, and many times it is. But if there's,
Mark,
yeah.
did you give Karen a copy of your
Yes, I
cheat
did.
sheet?
Yes,
Oh,
I
good.
did. Sorry.
Information sheet.
My
Information.
Thank you.
Yeah, fact sheet.
Please note it accordingly.
Sally or Jason, how many years have it been since the water and sewer rates have been raised?
I was mayor, 2005,
2005.
I believe, yeah.
Do you remember by which rate it was increased?
Or
Did
2006, one of the two.
I think
Honestly.
the Times hasn't had an opportunity to write about this story yet.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'll move the hearing be closed.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Katie?
He has an intent there.
Third time?
Please take note that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of New Paltz on October 10th, 2012, immediately following the second public hearing of the evening. The first public hearing begins at 7:30 regarding the adoption of a local law of the Village of New Paltz for the year 2012, which will seek to amend Article 9, Sanitary Sewers of the Village Code.
Anyone want to talk about sewers? No?
I'll move the hearing be closed.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
What?
I was in all right.
Oh, okay. So you're trying to
I was caught at
interject.
the same time.
All right, last time.
Please take note that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of New Paltz on October 10th, 2012, immediately following the third public hearing regarding the adoption of a moratorium and prohibition on natural gas and/or petroleum extraction, support activities, exploration activities, and extraction activities in the Village of New Paltz.
Who'd like to go first? Yes, Sharon?
My name is Sharon Myers. I'm representing Factory Catskills, which is the group that's working on an issue all over the county, and I do have members in Ulster County, in New Paltz, and I've been very close to New Paltz, but I'm not really resident at the moment. I urge you strong to do this as soon as possible, and to be really clear on the wording, and join the other towns in the valley that are passing similar resolutions. I think you have expressed desire to do this, and I'm not sure we have to talk about all the many aspects of it. But what I wanted to bring up, which I feel is important to the broader picture and why it's really important, we have just come to the realization that they have plans for NYMAR. It's a $550 million project, which will be a pipeline, 36-inch pipeline, to go through southern Ulster County, right south of here. Bringing, I have a packet of, and we're still trying to research, NYMAR, connecting Marcellus supplies to Northeast markets. It will come the Tennessee gas pipeline in Jersey, to the Millennium Pipeline, with the compressor station in Warwick and Orange County, up through Orange County, through the wonderful onion country, come into Ulster County, the town of Shelburne, go through Plattekill extensively, and go through Lloyd, cross the river at Poughkeepsie, go across the Hudson, to that's the Millennium Pipeline connection, and then it will cross the Hudson and go to Pleasant Valley, where there's a compressor station, to connect with the Iroquois Pipeline. The Iroquois Pipeline connects with Spectra, Algonquin, Northeast, Maritime, and will have all the way up to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, down through all of New England, and Long Island, and all of that in New York City.
Sharon, do you have comments that
so
might be
I
closer
feel
to
that
the village
I
itself?
Yes, but I feel that if there's going to be this pipeline a few miles down the road, it's important that you consider that in the picture, and the fact that there's going to be 3,000 megawatt power plants that are planned. And I have some of the information. We're trying to still find out more information. They're very quiet about it.
Thank you.
And I also have a packet about the next step that we'd like the board to do is to have a resolution to criminalize hydrofracking, that there is a provision through the Halliburton loophole that when they drill, they're exempt from clean water, all those acts, and they will not be penalized or anything. And we feel that it's a crime, and that I whole packet about that.
Thank you very much, Joanne. Rosalind, did you have something?
I guess I'm very happy you're doing this, and the sooner the better, because we have no idea what's happening in the state. And I'm just curious, I have like in front of me 4 versions from the initial draft and how they've been changed each time. And I don't know if this is the right time to do that, but how does each version get,
This is a
changed?
hearing on the moratorium. Later in the packet, we have 3 proposed laws.
Right, I saw that.
So
And I
that
think-
would be where.
Yes, no, and I was very pleased to see it because they are the very specific kinds of things that you want to do is to control any of the radioactive wastewater getting into our water, our systems in any way. So I really don't know what else to say except that I hope we do it as soon as possible. And then my philosophy is, I don't know if this is good for law, but you create and adjust. In other words, get a law passed, and then as things happen, can't we pass another ordinance or another aspect of it? So I think to start, this is very good. And that we can, as we see what happens with the rest of the state, we can keep adding to it. But I think the 3 parts that you have to keep it out of, our water systems and everything is very good. So I would be happy if we could just have it passed and then see what else happens in the rest of the state. But at least we've also registered ourselves with all of the other municipalities who have also, whatever ordinance they've passed, the point is we're all passing them. And I think we need to be part of all the other all the other municipalities. So I'm pleased. And will you vote on it tonight? Is that possible?
The board can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see in a few minutes.
Okay.
Rosalind, have you seen the 3 most recent proposals?
I think I have.
No.
I have right here what they are under the new business with, the municipal sewer system exploring and extracting for gas and then prohibiting brine on the village
Okay, you
roads.
got it.
So I'm familiar with that. Thank you. Thanks, Sally.
Any other comments? And I move to close the
Move to
public
close.
hearing. You want a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to, unless there's something else I'm not aware of, move to add taking action on the 4 public hearings to the agenda. Is there anything in addition to that folks wanted to add?
Request from the building inspector approved by her. That she is able, I guess you gave it to Katie.
All right, well, we'll add that too then. Is there any objection to adding those 5? No? So I guess so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I guess it would be the motion to approve the agenda. All right, public comment. Anyone out here? Yeah? All right. Any announcements?
Yes. The Water Street Market and downtown New Paltz are having a shop downtown for family. It's going to be on Saturday, October 13th, all day long. If you're shopping downtown, 10% of the proceeds from Water Street Market are going to go to the family of New Paltz. You can look for posters like these in the window, and everybody should be shopping locally all the time. And also, I wanted to announce that on October 29th, there is going to be the opening of the public hearing on the Park Point project that the SUNY campus is doing, and it's going to be a town planning board meeting think it's 7 p.m. is when it will begin, and it's going to be a public hearing. The draft environmental impact statement has come out and is available. I believe it's newpaltzparkpoint.com is where you can find more information on it. Actually, I can tell you more specifically here. Yeah, I think it's newpaltzparkpoint.com. I don't think it's actually on this. But you can look it up and see what else is going on. And it's the public hearing that, sorry, parkpointnewpaltz.com. Difference. And it's the public hearing related to the seeker process.
All right. Well, you want to make an announcement about how Eaton Street went on Sunday?
Oh yeah, Eaton the Street was wonderful. It was really, really great. We had between 300 and 400 people show up. We got a lot of press, which was really great. The sun even came out, which was so wonderful. And the bands played. They played under a tent. It was great. And the Elting Library gave us a lot of support by providing tents in case it did rain. But of course, we were prepared and it didn't rain. We had a few food vendors back out, but hopefully, I think the ones that were there certainly did very well, and hopefully it will encourage people to join us next year. And we actually, a lot of people were saying that we should do a festival in the beginning of the farm season and the end of the farm season. So we're looking at doing something maybe around Memorial Day weekend, maybe a little bit earlier than that, just because the students were such a great part in terms of their volunteerism, so we want to do it when the college students are here, so maybe it'll be before then. But yeah, it was really wonderful. Thanks for everybody who made great donations, and Stuart Glenn, who was one of our sponsors. Thanks so much. It was really wonderful.
Any other announcements?
Just two things, just to keep everyone advised. We had the most recent of several meetings of the Public Outreach Committee, working in conjunction with the other committees for the study of the consolidation, and there'll be another one in November. And then just prior to this meeting, the Village Board of Ethics met, including our newest member, Jonathan Deal, who was approved at last meeting, and they'll be meeting again in November as well.
Any others? I just have one unfortunate announcement. I think the board was all emailed on this, that we were unable to file our Safe Routes to School grant application because we were not able to get enough detailed information from the school district in time for the deadline to meet the criteria. But now that we know what we have to face, next we'll be keeping our eyes out for the next, program opportunity notice to work with the school board directly now to try to get some of these walking to school policies in place that would need to be in place to access this funding. So unfortunately couldn't do it this year, but it's hopefully going to be reauthorized next year.
Yeah.
Did I hit everything that
Yes, and actually, again, of course, it requires a signed commitment regarding policies by both the village and the school board, and there wasn't that much lead time to coordinate with the school district about those commitments. Additionally, I did find out about another grant for Safe Routes to School that would basically provide consulting services via a county grant from the planning department that would become available to 2 communities in the county. And by October 31st, we would need to apply for that. That would provide us with an inventory on a very sound basis to apply for the next round. And it's certainly worthwhile endeavor.
Unless there's any more announcements, we can go right to what I assume we can dispose of the public hearings first, and then the B3 was Kurt's here, and then go back to number 5, Brian's proposal. Does that work? Is there anyone here for something other than that? Okay. We can, because there was really no, among other reasons, because there was no real comment among the public and not much percent on the board, we can vote to adopt all 4 of these local laws tonight, is my understanding. If that's just putting the feeler, is there anyone who thinks that's a bad idea, that there's any one of these we shouldn't pass tonight?
As I was just saying before, I'm a little got swept up in things and, people weren't aware. I mean, one way or the other, I don't think there's anything that the public could tell me that would make me not feel that this is the right move because it's necessary. But, I'd like to have people out.
I don't disagree with you, because I feel like people would have come out if they were maybe more aware and had ample time. But I also feel like regardless of that, I'm going to be voting in favor of it. So, it's like more about like, do we want to be a little bit more open with our process and try to get more input and listen to people, even if we know it's not going to change our decision. I mean, this is Sally's proposal basically, so I don't know if you have a preference on what we do. I'm open.
I think that the public has been informed. They knew about the discussion.
They were all
David and Mark were here before, when we talked about
Yeah.
it. I think people have had ample opportunity. If they choose not to come, that's their choice. And if they come, that's their choice also. So
Fine
I'm
by
going
me.
to move the adoption of the amendment to chapter 207 regarding water.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that people have to understand that the water and sewer systems are set up so that the users of those systems pay for the water and sewer service they receive. And if we don't keep up with the rates and we start rating from the general fund, or we start taking money from the reserve so we're not prepared for an emergency, then we're in trouble. So no one likes to raise any rates, but it's important that we keep up so that we can keep our system up and not be in trouble financially. So this is the prudent thing to do.
Also.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
I'd like to move the amendment in changing the water rates for the village of New Paltz.
Second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
I
Ariana, you wanna move the next one? Or do you
um
wanna do moratorium?
sure. Well, I don't know. It's kind of Stewart's. Do you want to do it?
Well,
It's amending Article 9
we didn't do all
of
three
the sanitary sewer. I
no,
think we should do them one at a time.
Right, I agree.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think the sewer is the next one on the
Yeah.
line.
Okay, I moved it.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
aye.
So Ariana and Stuart, you wanna make this motion then?
Sure. I move to adopt a moratorium and prohibition on natural gas and or petroleum.
Second,
Discussion?
Do we need to state in the motion that it is for 6 months? We have it stated in the moratorium itself.
Then no, we don't just.
They-
No.
yeah, the local law that's presented has that as part of it, so I don't
Right.
think we have to say it. We can certainly announce that part of the law is that this is
Right.
for 6 months, period, from when the law is filed. And
Oh.
it's certainly the intention to act on whatever laws are gonna be needed sooner than the 6 months. Target is to have proposed laws perhaps in time to vote on them our third meeting this month. There's some proposed laws that are on the agenda that follow, and we can talk about them then, but there's no reason not to move full speed ahead, but we wanna make sure we get all of the information involved before we have actual statutes to put up for a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Well, thank you all. So now is.
Thank you.
And thank you guys out for coming out twice to help us with this.
yeah. Thanks so much.
I'm sorry, in respect of a question, how will this affect town users, their rates who utilize the village water and sewer system?
But
The
they're-
way it works
they
is,
pay.
well, it depends, there's two different categories. There's, one is, if you're in a town water district, the village bills the town directly in bulk for all of those customers. And this would affect those, well, we also bill, out of district users directly from the village. So even, no matter what category you're in, it has basically the same effect, I believe, and please if I'm forgetting something, but it goes up in the same proportion as the village residents, only because of our contract, the base rate for a town user is half again as much as a village resident. Because is the that was set in place years ago because of it's a system owned by the village residents, so it's a matter of fiduciary responsibility to get some return on selling to people who are not part owner of what it is you're the utility. Did I miss anything important?
No.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
The 100 to 150% ratio is a ratio that's used universally across New York State for out of district users. Again, as the mayor stated, it's because it's the taxpayers within the village that are paying for the infrastructure, and as a result, they carry that burden, and it's ameliorated by charging the out of town or the out of village users an additional rate. That's 150% of what they use.
But Aaron, you raised a good question, because I think a lot of people don't understand. 150% is the standard New York State standard.
It is.
It's not special to New
Yeah.
York.
And again, you've got to remember, as board member Glenn saying, the infrastructure cost, we're not talking nickels and dimes here. We're talking literally almost millions of dollars and sometimes millions of dollars. And that is already being paid for by the village users. And as a result, the town users are still getting a very good deal. And if you look at what the rates are, we see the rates statewide, and the comptroller has base rates that they allocate when they're providing lending to water and sewer upgrades. And right now, the village users are still under, by a pretty significant number, the average cost of water and sewer uses throughout the state. So even with the increases, they're still getting a very good deal.
It's all the duct tape and baling wire we use.
Yeah. No. Hopefully this will help you not have to use.
You in fact are regularly inspected by the DEC.
Oh, trust me, I know.
And you
No,
folks-
I'm gonna get in trouble for that for a couple of weeks, but it'll be worth it. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
You're doing a good thing.
Well,
Safe
thank you for your
trip
help.
home.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
All
Again,
right.
we'll be in touch with Nancy if there are any issues with the actual bill when it comes up.
Thank you so much, David Mark. All right.
Good night.
Kurt, you're up. Let's get you in and out of here. On the B3, you have while we're doing the moratorium on a separate track, been working on the B3 rezoning some language based on the old studies, and we're up, in relevant information. So, you want to walk us through what you propose?
Yes, and thank you for...
Do you want to join us at the table?
Sure.
You wanna go here, you wanna go there, or do you
It's just fine, thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On camera.
And thank you for accommodating me on the agenda, and making that alteration to allow me to speak about it now. Of course, the B3, what is currently the B3 zoning district, of course, was a priority at the very outset of my work for the village, and what is proposed is to implement largely what was studied previously during 2006 and 2007, and was the subject of several studies that the village had commissioned on comprehensive planning. And the area, of course, is the B3 covers nearly a mile, largely on the western side of North Chestnut Street, that is Route 32, and also some parcels on both sides of the street. And where the B3 designation is on both sides of the street is closest to where the boundary with the B2 core business district is. So I have proposed to the village board that the district be renamed Chestnut North Neighborhood Zoning District. It's my understanding we may want to look at how we identify the districts a little bit more by neighborhood and part of town rather than by conventional zoning lingo or numbers and letters. There are 26 parcels within this district, and so what was provided for the board this evening were two documents. One was a track changes version of what is now proposed to be called the Chestnut North Neighborhood Zoning District, and the other was a companion memorandum to explain some of what was undertaken. And it's also worth noting that at this point, there's still a little bit more work for me to do before the next steps that are provided at the end of the companion memo. Still a little bit more work for me to do before I can recommend the formal referral process to the planning board, to the county, public hearing, and completion of the secret documentation. What remains to be done, I'll start with what's not included, and that is a formal incorporation of standards that the village would like to see regarding the construction, and that is either that it receive a LEED certification of one sort or another, or other organizations that may grant certifications to development and types of construction. So that's something that we can decide what specific standard the village would like to hold developers to in that regard. The other is site design standards. I think there's some additional work we need to do with regard to these how the sites would be designed. I also need to incorporate a formal floor area ratio. While I incorporated a maximum site coverage by impervious surface, I didn't suggest an FAR. What was discussed in the planning documents of 2006 and 2007 was an FAR of approximately 2. Of course, floor area ratio refers to the coverage by buildings expressed as their ratio of total site coverage. So let's say that you had a 1 acre lot and it was covered 100%. That would be a floor area of 1.0. Of course, as you go up in height, you're able to not disturb a good portion of the height of the site. The more you go up in height, 2 stories, 3 stories, 4 stories, etc. There was discussion in the 2006 and 7 planning documents about going to 4 stories. What I propose for the moment, and I would hope would be of vigorous discussion by the village board, is whether the magic number for height should be 3 stories, 4 stories, or 5 stories. That's generally considered mid-rise. I had started with 3 stories and 40 feet, and that would accommodate such things as green roofs, architecturally pitched roofs, and also other maybe common or even private decks at the top of roofs that have proved very popular in many communities throughout the Hudson River Valley. The idea there is to get as much use as possible of the rooftops. There could be, they could actually, of course, be living roofs, which would mean that they would not be simply shingles that from which water would run off, but rather they would absorb. These are all proven technologies at this point in time, and also becoming more and more popular not only around the country, but really beyond as well. So what's proposed at this time is that in an alternative to listing every use that we can think we'd like to accommodate under the heading of retail or services, just having these uses proposed but not named individually. In other words, getting away from trying to have a fully inclusive list of uses and really only excluding those ones that cannot conform to the type of development desired. For example, many of the things that are now permitted in that district. It's the B3 highway district as it exists. So of course years ago it was seen as a highway commercial district where you have large front yard setbacks, almost no residential use, and heavy commercial uses, automobile sales and repairs, heavy repairs, things like that, and some even light industrial. I think that we've seen over time that district has reached a certain plateau with regard to those types of uses really flourishing, and mostly I think they're based now on turnover existing facilities rather than the construction of new heavy commercial or light industrial uses. And of course, the office market has also been pretty soft for some time now. So there's no expectation that that office buildings would proliferate at this point. So what we're looking at is, and that really is the emphasis, is the encouragement of new residential units in various forms, but primarily in either multifamily rental apartments or perhaps condominiums. Co-op is even a possibility, but you'll find those more towards New York City and some of the immediate suburbs. So I'm thinking largely rental apartments of various sizes and various accommodations for all of those who'd like to reside in New Paltz, as well as condominiums. So these, that's what I believe to be the need in the village right now, is for there's an awful lot of pressure on housing, and that goes for both sales of real property as well as the rental residential market. And I think that this would greatly help alleviate some of that pressure, and also allow developers flexibility and the ability to build density so long as they meet our standards for design in terms of construction. And of course, that goes for everything from environmental design to aesthetics as well. So the uses, some of the uses you see there now would become pre-existing legally non-conforming uses. Now that obviously has an effect on the existing ownership and use of those properties. What it means is that the use can continue, but really zoning at this point, we're using zoning as a tool to encourage an entirely different type of development. The front yards, for example, that are required under what I proposed and what was discussed in 06 and 07 and recommended would be either a zero lot line, that is to say no front yard, or perhaps a maximum as opposed to a minimum front yard setback. That is more seen in of course, our core business district and some of the other districts as well, but particularly in the core districts where you're right up against the sidewalk. If you look at around the area of North Chestnut and Front Street, after which this district begins, after Broadhead and Henry Du Bois Drive, what of course you'll see is that soon after some houses with some commercial uses and apartments, some of the houses are already 3 stories, that it quickly becomes difficult to identify. Obviously, a lot of the people who live and work here don't venture down there as much as they do other parts of town. So the notion in 2006 and 2007, and I believe it's still a worthy objective, is to implement regulations that would encourage an entirely different type of development along this stretch, and then ending at Bosse's, which I wouldn't recommend any change. It's zoned R2, but as far as the foreseeable future, I don't see a change in that use. So at the time that there were to be any sign of change for that use, the village could revisit it, but I don't necessarily recommend a change to that R2 piece of property that comprises the northernmost portion of the village.
One question. So do I understand it that you've taken out the specific retail uses that are in the code now? Are they, for the most part, would be included in the mixed use definition? So if you wanted to have 2 apartments and a liquor store underneath it, or some other kind of retail situation, that would be, are we looking for that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not that we're doing away with the retail use, it's just not, we're trying to encourage mixed use so that we have the 2 together.
Yeah, if you look at what was taken out, it's all of these listings, but
Right.
what it is put in here is mixed use development with retail goods and services and or professional offices occupying the ground floor / street level, and multifamily residential and or condominiums above the ground floor / street level. I actually have a question also. Are condominiums specifically something that is purchased? Is that why they're called that? And
Yes.
that's like, okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify for this
So
purpose.
you're not taking it to the northern line of the village.
That's true. It leaves the BOCES designation as R2 intact, at least for the moment, until we understand that there might be some change contemplated with regard to the location of the BOCES facilities.
Why wouldn't we include it?
We can. It's just that my understanding is that they've made some investment in that property, and they probably wouldn't depart from that location. So in a way, I didn't give that heavy consideration, that particular site. But there's no reason necessarily why that couldn't be included at this time, and that the boundaries couldn't simply be.
Because they're grandfathered anyway.
That's true.
So I would recommend we take it all the way to the end.
I feel the same way, yeah.
Sure.
Well, the only issue is if they wanted to somehow like expand their vote, like what they're doing currently, or kind of change it around, wouldn't that have a problem with the new zoning, or?
Well,
They could probably do more, actually.
Yeah, that's what I
Higher
was thinking.
density, more height, they could probably, they just do.
I
have a problem with the height.
But it's not a mixed use though. I mean,
Well, that's not right. That's
No
what a lot of
resident.
those things is the mixed use aspect.
what I could answer is that actually BOCES can avail itself to, I believe, the same powers that school districts, the state university system, and other institutions that have that authorization to essentially not required to conform to zoning in the way that private development is.
So they can do whatever they want.
Almost.
But if we put it in as Sally and
Wait.
Ariana, I think I heard said, then if for some reason BOCES sold it tomorrow
Right.
and sold it to somebody else, they'd still, I guess that's the question. If that happened, if BOCES packed up enough tomorrow and someone were to redevelop that site, would it be in the public's interest to have it zoned in the new B3 or in the R2? And that should probably guide our decision, right?
Yes, and I think the likely conclusion would be that the new designation, B3 or new Chestnut North Neighborhood District, as opposed to R2. That's my feeling, although I didn't look at that parcel specifically in depth.
You're feeling like it would make sense to have it be part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's my feeling as well. And I mean, and I remember, and thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here. I remember, basically looking at this whole area and standing with Rich and a number of other people for a completely separate reason, bicycle pedestrian related, and watching how the traffic pattern was. And I know that there was talk about having it be like maybe a traffic circle at that intersection, and something that would help people realize that they were entering the village and that they should drive a little bit more slowly, and that there's a school right there, and maybe we would have more sidewalks anyway, and have it be a much more walkable area and safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. And I think
Yeah,
extending it would be the ideal.
The crosswalk by the Stewart's parking ride is extremely dangerous. You cross there a ton of times, and people just don't expect, when you're in the middle of the village, I think many of the people look at it and say, I'm in a village, I have to stop for pedestrians. But when you're out there, it's like you might as well be crossing, 87.
You're absolutely
The throughway.
And that's in spite of the fact that, of course, the same stretch of road goes at least through 2 speed zone changes upward as soon as you leave the village
Yeah.
limits. Your point is very well taken, and that also, at least for the moment, I'll just this leads into, of course, part of my proposal is to create parallel parking, on-street parking on North Chestnut. The speed limit's 30, but we all know it feels like you're struggling to go 30, at least watching drivers go by. So it would basically be parking like other areas of the village, and that would be on-street parking. In other words, right now on so many of our streets and portions of Maine, you'll have parallel parking, on-street parking.
No, I'm saying we're in North Chestnut.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where I'd like to implement
In
this.
the new zone.
Yeah, because
Like down 32.
yeah, the width
So
is there.
place.
In other words, we don't need additional right of way. Of course, it's a state highway, but there's no need for it. Really is just our own parking regulations as they affect
Do
this.
we need,
Hmm.
since we're already talking broadly about the parking regulations in the village for business approvals are a little bit onerous, and since we want to encourage more bicycle and pedestrian, would that be the best use of the width of the road, rather than, for example, having a double wide sidewalk with bike lanes and a narrow shoulder, almost like the Taconic Parkway, which would slow traffic,
Right.
and then have off-street little small clusters of off-street parking.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just asking,
Something like that.
which is Because it's a tough thing, we always get begged for more parking,
Mhm.
and then we always get begged for we want more bike and pedestrian
Right.
accessibility, and the two are mutually exclusive.
Uh,
So
yes,
is
although.
it a way to, what's more important for the
Yeah.
streetscape, I guess, I
Can
don't
we have
know.
a barricade between the bike lanes and the cars?
Well, you're
A
absolutely
row of
right,
trees or
but-
something.
I think I understand visually what Kurt is proposing. Because when you come in from Kingston on that road, you do not acknowledge that you are in a village proper.
There's no
Right.
reason you should feel that way. The way the road is, there's no reason you would feel that way.
Right, and so I think that's what Kurt has in mind by proposing
Parking on both sides.
parking on both sides, because
I get
it
that.
sets
Right.
the
Yeah.
tone that you are in
Right.
a village.
However, I like what Jason's saying. I mean, that's
Right.
that's the thought, is to increase the sidewalks, toss in a bike lane, maybe we get a parking ride that like we set up another one somewhere around, a small one, and then
That would be ideal.
That
we-
parking lot is big enough as it is.
It's not big enough for the buses that need to access it though.
Well, actually, of course,
They don't.
They don't pull into. They
They
can't
don't
pull
pull
into
in
it. Yeah.
properly.
recently DOT got Trailways to actually bring one of their large buses that we see here in the village on the
That's right.
major routes, and of course, what was ultimately, once all officials and of state transportation and Trailways, both parties conceded that you can currently stop there safely. So they may not pull into the lot, but the idea is to create a safe stopping location on 32 there.
But I wanna go back, because you keep saying the 2006 thought,
I
or
know.
2007 thought. And before your arrival, we had a whole community discussion. Remember, Ariana, the community was here to talk about B3.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Doesn't matter, because what we talked about was the idea of what you're proposing with a couple of exceptions. One, have you been able to review the file and the minutes of that meeting which we had in,
No idea.
Ariana, when did we have the meeting?
It must have
June,
been like.
No, it was
September.
before Kirk came. I think it was the end of April.
Yeah, it must have been way earlier this year.
Anyway,
Not even last year.
and people had the local business people were here, and we had a very, very good, Rich was here for it, very willing discussion, and people signed up who wanted to participate in discussions on developing this whole new thing. And the clerk's office, Katie wasn't the clerk, but the clerk's office should have that list of people who volunteered, who wanted to be a part of the discussion of
Excellent.
this whole thing. So I think you need to grab that file if you haven't seen it.
I may not have. I know that the mayor had provided me with a wealth of materials at the time of my arrival, including everything in a binder. However, it may not have.
I think it's in
There was more studies, just to.
Great way of putting
I
it,
will,
right?
the clerk.
I
And
can-
if the clerk doesn't have it, I have a copy.
Thank you. So this was quite recently, yes,
Yeah.
earlier this year.
And one of the things that we talked about was the need, and I may not be using the right term, transition, so that when you are downtown, okay, say it takes,
The like connectivity.
yeah,
Yeah.
the connectivity, so that you know that beyond there are more businesses, more activity going on, because you move right into a residential sort of area. So there was concern about the connectivity and the way of suggesting further out.
For people to keep walking,
Yeah.
basically.
Yes, exactly.
And then some of the specific things that they wanted and didn't want, they agreed on high density housing, but they suggested a hotel. Now, does your,
Yes, I would like to encourage a
You would
well-designed.
provide that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that use would be allowed, and you're absolutely right, because the impression that of course you get from
Mhm.
this draft is that, and it is true, it's meant to require ground floor commercial, retail services,
Mhm.
and then above, require that actually at least, that every building be at least 2 stories as far as new construction, and that it be retail services on the ground floor and residential above. But your point's well taken. Hotel is of course substantial use in and of itself, and I really would like to encourage the right type of hotel around that district.
But Rich was here the night that I'm
Eco
talking
town.
about, and there was a lot of interest, right? And people wanted to be a part and make this really work well for everybody.
Right,
So,
but with the current zoning,
See if we can find that file.
motel fits into the current zoning, but the hotel doesn't, and I guess the difference is how you enter the facility.
Right.
Motel is from the outside and hotel allows it from the inside. So it's just a matter of how you come in and out is the two differences.
And I think it's, sorry, sure.
I just had two different points. Can you consider, as you're going out towards Bosse's, which of course has a road that also then connects onto the rail trail, on one side, say the west side of 32, could you have the sidewalks for walking and the bike lane, and then have the parking on the east side only, so you have more parking, but you do provide a way for the people to get from the core of the village out to the rail trail and have more sidewalks heading in that direction. That's the first thing. Unrelated, I know when the DPA heard about this proposal, at first at least, there were several of them that were concerned that we had this kind of funky downtown atmosphere, and they were afraid that if we tried to create the same thing, which I don't think you're trying to do, but if you were out along 32 North, then somehow that would take away from the other part. But it sounds like you have services downstairs and residences upstairs, not the same kind of thing that you would have, say, on Main Street.
That's
Am
the
I
intent.
right about that?
Yes, that certainly is the intent, and it's worth stating that, of course, we all know that it's not just Main Street, of course, Front Street, and basically it's in the shape of a triangle, I don't think anyone would deny that Front Street is an important part, and even along Chestnut, completing that triangle with Main Street,
Right.
it is
Church.
really is not at all detached from what people know as New Paltz and its shopping district. So it's not to say that there wouldn't be some retail shops on the first floor in the Chestnut North neighborhood district that wouldn't be somewhat similar. I mean, we couldn't prohibit that.
Right.
But at the same time, it would encourage a different type of district. And your first point is very important as well. The notion is that there are several alternatives that the board can consider with regard to how much parking on the street, where is it, and to be sure that there's not only ample sidewalks but bicycling, because even though the rail trail is there for bicycling, I don't think there's any doubt that we should encourage safe bicycle use on this very same corridor. It's a lengthy one, as we know.
And the idea of, to me, that if we're expanding expanding our commercial district, that, I guess it creates competition, but I don't really see that being like a bad, it's really just expanding the funkiness that is New Paltz. It's not, I don't know. So
Yeah,
that,
well,
I see that as
it would-
a
Stuart's point was that the funkiness we want to maintain, and the business people that were here with us make sure that that is maintained and keeps its integrity and it's not sacrificed for the new business area. And Curtis said he agrees with that view.
And thank you all for helping me clarify that. That's an important clarification. It's not meant to stretch us thin in terms of what is identified as downtown New Paltz.
Great job. What do we need to do?
Well, like I said, I do need to do a little bit more work to give you regulations that you can go forward with formally.
What do you mean? You mean amending this?
Well, yes. In other words, what of course I said before is that I did not yet include a standard for construction, whether it be a certain level of LEED certification or an reorganization. Also an FAR to be placed in there, and parking standards.
Can there be something about
And a meeting
I'm sorry,
that-
wait, Sally. Sally?
Yes.
All right, I started to talk before you.
Can we, there be something like it mentions the rooftop gardens, but can that be like part of like, I mean, I don't know specifically what LEED certification would require something like that, but can that be part of it?
For better or for worse, LEED takes a different approach than conventional land use regulations, which may be just fine for LEEDs. And what that is that a developer can almost, to some extent, pick and choose. First, you must tell them what standard
Right.
you expect: bronze, silver, gold, and may even be one above it, platinum. Yeah.
There is, yeah.
And so at that point, once we apprise developers of our regulations of what we're expecting, there still is a little bit of being able to pick and choose a little bit, where you might achieve more points from something, and you could end up neglecting another aspect of it. So I think it's important that, but we
What about other certifications like National Green Building Standards, which I know the campus is utilizing?
Yes, and I need to familiarize myself a little bit more with the specifics, but that's.
Well, I don't know the specifics of it either, but you know.
But the living roofs, the rooftop gardens, things like that, I think would be embraced very much. And what I tried to do also was look at the topography that exists. And what I found was, as you know, on North Chestnut, as you get near the boundary of the B2 and what is currently the B3, at about Chestnut and Broadhead, you of course there are homes that are 3 stories. The peaks of the roofs may reach approximately 35 feet or so. So I mentioned 40 feet, but in earnest, I'd suggest, and as well as the studies done by other professional consulting planners, do recommend 4 stories. I just want to make sure that we don't foreclose the option of a living roof and recreational use, common as well as private, depending on which units. In other words, there could be so many different types of housing incorporated into the same structure that might be 3 or 4 stories tall.
Well, wouldn't making it 4 stories allowed, there's still the option for everything you're saying, all the 3 stories plus rooftop gardens. The only thing we lose by leaving out 4 stories is being allowed 4-story buildings, unless.
Well, you're right. In other words, typically it's of course it's a number of stories, and then however a community measures the height of a building per their zoning definitions. So there's that.
Right.
Number
Well, we already
of
have 4-story buildings in the village right now.
We do
The
have
one
a
on the corner
zoning.
of Church and Main.
Oh yeah.
On the church side it's 4 stories.
Absolutely.
It depends on where you are.
I'm
So
afraid
does that come into zoning laws at all?
Yes. In other words,
Grandfather, that building
No,
Yeah.
is
I mean to allow it where it's unobtrusive. Because the whole
Right.
point of restricting stories is because it's eyesore, I guess, right? Is it?
Well, it's for the view. It would show
yeah, that's my
it's
concern.
Above the tree line, yeah.
In New Paltz, that's my concern. By the way, in other communities, we know that, I mean, of course, I think we're all familiar that in so many suburban towns and even throughout the Hudson Valley, with the exception of maybe a district or 2, very limited area, 2 stories and maybe a walkout basement is the rule, and anything else proposed can quickly draw gasps and questions. In New Paltz, I would suggest that 3 and 4 are
right now it's
required.
35 feet.
35 feet and 25 feet in some districts,
Right.
which is
But you're proposing for this district specifically 40 feet.
40 feet, but I'd like to,
And how you divide that up, you don't care.
pretty much, and yeah, I mean, I should say that also in looking at the topography, and this is not anything that anyone who's lived here doesn't already know, but of course, going east from the rail trail and the location of North Chestnut in this zoning corridor, of course, the elevation goes up as you go east, and of course, the lowest point is generally the Wallkill River at approximately 180 feet. But rather, it appears to me that nobody's view of especially the ridge and the backdrop to New Paltz, none of that should be impeded by this development. So that I think might be a rule of thumb for our thinking about height, because we know that we're
You
not.
also have some wetlands that you're gonna have to
There are.
contend with.
There are some wetlands, and if they're not state, they might be federal, and they'll need to be delineated and reckoned with in terms of these sites. So And then that's where parking really gets squeezed out. We're hoping for, first of all, to encourage, to not accommodate excessive car ownership per dwelling unit. That's what I'd like to think in the direction that we're headed. So you want to try to gently but forcefully not accommodate an excessive number of cars per unit, as well as the parking on site would be very difficult to accommodate and would take away greatly from the site design standards and even the aesthetics and what we seek to create there. So that's where, as you mentioned, either off-street parking, and by the way, I visited the county lot again, just, it's not that I wasn't familiar with it, but our parking lot, I think we call it on North Chestnut, and the county, I think it was the county who, did they do that work, to install it? They did it. Yeah, I'm sorry, is that the state?
Metro North, wasn't it? The parking lot?
I'm sorry that I don't know this offhand.
I think that they got grants from part of the U.S. Transportation Fund, and that helped them pay for the lease of the property, which is not owned by the government, and also because they wanted to be able to take people from there over to the train, and so for Metro North, and it stops 2 or 3 places, or at least it used to, and it wasn't paid for with local funding.
I look at this existing lot, which we know is not fully utilized on weekends or on weekdays, as a real resource. And I think that as I look back and took a closer look at it, that a nice job was done designing it. And of course, it provides immediate access to the rail trail. And many people know that. You can see cars with bike racks parked in that corner on a nice weekend. So the notion is, and actually brings me to one more point before I maybe take a few more questions. But of course, what we really have is frontage on Chestnut and also frontage on the rail trail. Now that's a somewhat new way of thinking about it, but already with the success of rail trails, now that we're 20, 25 years out from the beginning of the rail trail movement, with the success of them, especially in the Hudson River Valley, if you take, for example, the Harwin Valley Rail Trail in Dutchess, as you get towards the village of Millerton, all of a sudden there are actual homes that now have some commercial use on their first story, and some of them are bicycle shops, others are some of the same things that you might see walking along the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail. If you peek onto the streets or into Water Street Market, some of those same shops that are not just for those using it for heavy recreation, like semi-pro bicycling, but so you really have almost 2 frontages. One of the essence of this would be to provide more than just looking out at woods and a really wonderful backdrop, but also this immediate almost frontage where no vehicles are, of course, traveling it, but for people to depart from the rail trail and patronize some of the retail uses in the first story that face completely opposite of North Chestnut. And I'd like to think that this would also, on a note, sort of a sidebar from planning, that I believe that in the end despite the heavy residential use, that they will nonetheless be ratables to the village, and of course they'll be paying village and town taxes and all the others. So I think that in the end that this will be economically healthy for the village in every respect. That's part of the objective.
Very cool. So when would you have the next draft of this for us to possibly go through the list you provided in your memo?
Sure.
So we would need the next draft to get everything else rolling, right?
Yes, I can't do it by tomorrow by noon, so that leaves me with next week towards the.
Is that a doable deadline for not our next week, the one after?
That's right. So it would be 1 week from tomorrow, which affords reasonable time.
I mean, I have questions. How are we going to decide which building standards are the best? Like, I don't. Because I'm sure there's a lot more out there than just the 2 or 3 that I've heard about, and like, how do we figure out what kind of design standards we want in our community?
I'd like to present the village board with some of the entities that do the certifying, some images perhaps, And if that's found to be enough, the village board could make a decision based upon that presentation, or there also could be other experts who might simply willingly come in to discuss, maybe representing some of those entities, or others who might talk more specifically about it and with a greater depth than I might in my presentations.
The promise for 2 weeks, is that going to give you the time to meet with the group of people who expressed interest? I don't want them to feel that they've been excluded and not included in this process that we
Yeah.
promised.
Thank you for
Especially because within the next 2 weeks is the public hearing on Park Point, and if we're going to be examining the EIS, then, you know, I know, but it's a 300-page document.
Mhm.
But we're not doing that as a board.
I don't know. I mean, it affects the
We haven't
village.
been asked to participate as a board.
Well,
We're an interested party.
yes, in the
Yeah.
sense
We
that
were
it is,
invited as an interested party.
The village was official. The village is, or whatever, involved, not involved, we're interested in this.
interested, and you're right, by the way,
Friend
Mary,
of the board.
the way it was shown on the distribution sheet was lumping involved and interested agencies together, although involved agencies have actual approval, disapproval,
Right.
authority over it, so
Now, when is that?
October 29th is
That's
the
right.
public hearing. And I wanna thank you, I should actually, just familiarize myself with what occurred earlier this year and contact that same group again. And in that case, in deference to the idea of scheduling something
Can we give
collectively with them.
latitude to this?
Well, it depends, if Kurt says you can do it in 2 weeks, you can do
Yeah,
it
but
in 2
that
weeks.
is without Park Point.
Well,
And that's, yeah.
actually, it's really just how quickly I can get together with the group who was brought together previously and gave their thoughts to the village board, and I have to admit, I'd be a little bit at their mercy. Well, they may be interested in getting together as soon as possible on this. There's, I think, I can't say for sure how, their numbers and how many might ask me for alternative dates. I could actually get back to the board on that, so you know which agenda would be most appropriate.
What do you wanna do, concept approval, moving as expeditiously as we
We're
can?
not, there's nothing to approve yet, it's still, it's not a finished draft either.
No, but it's a concept, the whole 5 steps.
Well, why don't we wait till we have something to, unless you feel a strong need that we have to have something on the record, let's just let it
If
finish it.
we're comfortable, I don't.
I'm comfortable. I don't think we need to.
Okay.
I mean, this is moving well, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'm gonna pursue this group, immediately anyway, and then what I'll do is make sure that my work on finalizing this is occurring so that it can be submitted to the board for it will be your last meeting in October. And so therefore it'll be, 1 week from tomorrow to do it, but I'll.
And it's not necessarily just that group either, there should, I suppose now that we are going into the moratorium, we should have some kind of outline of a public participation plan for things like this. Cause I'd hate to have, us, basically what Brian was bringing up earlier, have us on the verge of adopting a zoning change for 30-some parcels, and then the next week have people come out and yell at us, cause what did you just do to my house, or you just ruined my business, or, I'd rather have the calm people
dialogue
down
be open,
conversations
yeah.
early than later, Cause I know when we
Transparency.
brought this up years and years ago, we had some business owners concerned that they wouldn't, it was an unfounded concern, but some, the rumor started that this type of business wouldn't be able to exist in this area anymore, so you have to go out of business, and so just before rumors get started with something this kind of big,
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah,
that
so maybe
there
broader-
was a group
why
that
don't we
needs to be met.
figure out a broader public participation plan and bring that to the board, cause we can just use Kathy's software to put out a notice to all the affected property owners.
That's true. I mean, one of the things.
Just have
I noticed-
even one public meeting, just some kind of something,
Yes, absolutely. This goes for folks who are, this goes for businesses who are currently in our B3 district, as well as, I think, there are businesses that are near Main Street or on Front Street that also were concerned.
Over a lot,
Okay,
both,
so therefore
both on
there's a,
Chestnut,
yeah,
Front Street, Main Street, and we have a list of who was here, so.
one of the last things that I'll mention is, one of the things that may be a benefit to the village is in so many cases, or in several cases along this westerly side of North Chestnut, these uses, you can see that they're sort of underutilized. They're spread out. I mean, for example, one of course is a self car wash, in being on that site, I saw just how much of it was paved even behind the car wash basin. What you have is this isn't really disturbing green fields, and I think that weighs in favor of what we want to do here.
Right.
It's not greenfield development,
No.
although there may be a few parcels that are.
It's like empty parking lots,
Yeah.
and I mean, really bad sidewalks, and yeah, I spent a lot of time. I lived on Chestnut for most of my time in New Falls. I've always
On the frontier.
yes, on the frontier, on the
Yeah.
outskirts. And,
After
you know,
this, it will no longer be the frontier.
yeah, walking all the way out to my market and stuff. You know, you see a lot of things out
You
there.
definitely do when you're walking or biking as opposed to
Yeah,
driving.
biking's very dangerous too. And then people are biking on the sidewalks up that long hill. I mean, that
Yeah.
needs to be something we need to fix up.
Would you like this?
Designated
you like to go for?
entrances and exits
He's
and
enjoying it,
sidewalks
so it's right.
all
He's
the
a-
Oh,
Things
oh,
that you
that's
just-
true.
As much as possible control the vehicular access.
And that
Be a
itself
test.
will
Yes,
then
I've
you
not
suggest
understood.
you are coming into the village. If there are
Check it
sidewalks
with the copy.
and proper
I-
entrances
it's,
and
you know.
exits for businesses,
We should read whatever they say.
And
It's
I
not
think
about
that-
that. I agree. I already.
Anything else for Kurt?
what about those
Yes.
other things, I get off the road and I can go down a road and I can go to one business, two business,
Yes, as a matter of fact,
what do you call that?
the service roads,
No, there's a road for it, a name for it.
there used to be a lot of things proposed to alleviate traffic on major commercial routes where there'd be these parallel streets. In this case, what I think you may be referring to, and I think I support, is the notion of even if they were dead ends, perpendicular roads to North Chestnut that would serve more than one property, and would instead of giving you the commercial highway field, would give you more of the village field.
But it also would not then slow down your through traffic as much.
That's right.
So,
There's a lot of opportunities to
Yeah.
on all fronts to improve development there.
I hate to be picky, but is there a reason Chestnut North and not North Chestnut?
Actually, there's no reason there other than
Okay, because I like
traffic.
North Chestnut better.
Sure.
Well, you have a street,
That's what the street's
you
called.
have a street that's called North Chestnut, but you're not including the whole street in this district.
So it could be North Chestnut.
Well, actually,
North Chestnut.
North Chestnut North.
I'll tell you what. That name, which by the way is subject to discussion with the village board now and later, that name was first of all to get away from B3 highway commercial or anything that might replace it that seems like conventional zoning lingo for districts, trying to get them to things that people can identify with. What I did by going with Chestnut North Neighborhood Zoning District is almost the equivalent of adding like an
Smiley
E,
face.
yeah, or an E to the word old and making it old tiny or something. I mean, so
Like
in
the
a way-
Northwestern Gateway.
he's
Yeah.
antiquing
How about we
the
let,
neighborhood.
why don't we let whoever shows up for this public workshop, let them all decide on the
Oh.
name.
I hate to be picky. I
not
just.
at all. It's really a place to
No,
start.
I don't. You're right. No, I don't hate to be picky. I like being
Thank
picky.
you.
I'm gonna be picky. How about that, Stuart?
That's
Are
great.
you going to be picky? What are you naming it then?
It could be
The
North
Northwestern Gateway. I just
Chestnut.
named it.
Northwestern Gateway. Okay. Well, that's,
Well, you don't like that style? I come up with a different name. I don't have
All
a
right,
problem.
I think chestnut mixed juice.
Okay, I'm alright with that.
How about?
but again, this
You
is
have a contest.
believe me, we'll find a good name.
Can we put my last
What do you want to
I
name
don't
it?
know, that might have to
It can be on Facebook.
Like,
We'll worry about it.
We could have a competition.
I want a competition.
All the people on the village Facebook, please come up with
I'm gonna do
ideas.
more time running. We'll run a map in the paper, you can write it. Alright. Anything else for Kurt? No? Well, thank you, Kurt.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, this is great.
Does
Alright.
someone want to take 5?
What's that?
Does someone want to take 5 because it is 9 o'clock?
It's almost done. We can do that, that's
I
fine.
just have to use the bathroom really quick.
Yeah, it's
so
8:54. Let's do that now.
I'm sorry about that.
What do you want?
Oh, so
Recess.
Yeah, should we make? a
Are bills
motion
and
to-
claims done? Can they be
Yeah,
taken
they're done.
downstairs?
Yep.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
So we can use the bathroom.
So moved.
We didn't vote on it.
What?
Oh, do they have to be physically present to be voted on?
No.
What?
But I'm
Kurt,
Yeah.
Katie, you might
I have
find
a
it
question for you.
three
Um,
discussion.
this is
Okay.
completely separate
the same
from
night that
your
we had
work,
Evan
except that
here.
it's not at all. But are you willing to meet with, is the camera on?
Anybody
Oh, secret stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is secret stuff.
I'm bringing out the food.
I thought there was 4 public hearings and.
Oh, no, but you actually walked in right in time. We just started talking about it when you walked up.
But the thing is,
And this
but I
is
don't wanna-
not the first conversation
but
I've
let's say
had with
it was a
them.
let's say it was a private entity who somehow was doing everything right, you might not be.
Yeah, they wouldn't be a private entity. They'd be some sort of not-for-profit building housing,
They're
and
not-
that's affordable. And like,
they're not the
you
only
know,
ones
private
that-
entities want money.
No, we talked about the new city. I mean, back
I mean,
in
I
America.
don't feel that way, but like these aren't. It's not like these are community members, and they come in here and they're all like,
No, they're not.
"Oh, we care about your community." It's like,
Yeah.
no, you don't. You don't care about us at all. You care about what you can make off of our community. That's the problem.
Well, you mentioned several.
And it's okay for people who are really contributing to the community to have this like, you know, symbiotic relationship where there's a benefit and it's beneficial to both
She's on
parties.
her podium again.
Oh God,
Sally, you
I
better get your
hate
earmuffs
our
on.
point.
So I tell you what, I would gladly do that.
So yes, will you meet with us? Because basically, these students started going through this stuff. I'm like, I feel like these students need their own attorney. That's for sure. These students are like on it. They're like really activists.
Aren't they creating more on-campus housing as we speak right now?
Yes, that's the
So
thing.
why do they want to put more student housing right there?
And right now, they have let leak that there's 100 less students living on campus than there had been this time last year. And so, if there's less
Aren't they
students
building like
living on
400
campus,
units for kids on campus or something?
they're building a new dorm that I don't know how many beds it would hold, but this Park Point project would be 732.
Right.
And
And it was
that's
supposed
no
to be-
joke.
It was supposed to be graduate housing and young faculty housing when it was first proposed.
But what's that? That's in the town zone?
It's Tampa.
Yeah, and they said they're going to drill
And
their
this
own
is
wells
why
and
you
provide
need
their own
one
sewer.
government.
And
I'm
part
tired
of their deal with the town is that they will expand the water and sewer that they find to the town residents.
Mhm. And that's the secret deal, I think.
You read with that?
I did.
Not secret anymore.
No. They're putting a water tank up across the way on Moriella property. That's gonna be.
By the Moriella pool?
They're
No,
putting
no.
it out now?
Check out this.
Oriello's
putting it
on
out
the
already, or?
whole part of town.
They're putting it.
Payment
They
in
sold
lieu
them
of
this land.
taxes
Okay.
in the town of New Paltz will be paid made for
Farm,
fire,
right.
police,
Both
emergency,
sides
other
of the street.
services.
North or south?
So,
I should have run home and gotten a cup of coffee.
Well,
What?
Well, Ariana, I mean,
It's
if
basically right
you
over
look
here.
at it in the long term, I mean, if they create 700 units over there, and then you create another, you know, let's call it several hundred units on the north side, eventually you're gonna meet the supply, and then the price is gonna go down.
I recognize that, and that's why I'm not anti the housing. Period. It just is.
We're probably
There's
not gonna be
They're gonna
discussing anything
they're
in
gonna
closed
cut
session.
into farm
All
law?
that Moriella property is gonna be between Richmond and South Park. All of that will be considered.
Wait, no, that's
Right.
actually not terrorist, I think.
That's not.
It's scary. This is scary.
I brought Kurt
It's on the
Max.
agenda.
I'm afraid of this
Yeah.
project.
But is it gonna be just geared towards the students, or is it only for the students?
They claim that there will be 13 buildings, 10 of which will be student housing, and 3 of which will be for faculty.
I don't know if that'll happen. Let me see.
And
30
building-
faculty, that's nothing.
and they're claiming that it's for people who currently would be living in New Paltz if they had affordable housing, safe and affordable are the words that they're using.
Oh,
And-
yeah, you should see
And
the
when they
construction
asked,
flyer.
when people asked about the police and what police
this
would be
one,
used,
yeah.
oh my god, the guy was like, oh well, it'll be addressed the same way that things are addressed with the police right now. You know, it'll be co-jurisdictional. The town police and the SUNY police will be answering things, but it'll be primarily SUNY. And I was like, excuse me, the SUNY system just said that in their youth contract that these police can't go off of campus. So I don't know how you think that there's co-jurisdictional anything going on, but. Of course, David Rooney was the one to answer that and not the presenter. But David Rooney is the top administrator.
Oh, isn't he?
Yeah, have a cookie.
I'm not a cracker.
We're talking about Bree's requested.
There's some lemonade if you need, if you'd like a drink.
Want to talk to her
Sorry, no
in executive
champagne.
session, or do we want to just talk amongst ourselves about it?
I
Well, I
mean,
wanna do,
Later, I mean, later.
well, you know, if we're doing it that much later, maybe we should just next time
Girl. Okay.
and do it ourselves tonight.
Well, I wasn't planning on having any public discussion about it at all, just the first discussion amongst us.
okay.
Yeah, so.
Then yeah, let's do that.
Just, yeah, so I guess we should,
No, you guys don't have any questions?
well, we haven't even talked about it, so we don't know what our questions were either. So we're gonna have to talk about it first.
So I'm going to scan and copy the information from Joanne and also from Marge Marzik, so that
Cool.
everybody has it. I'm also going to put this, a little blurb on our webpage and also the Facebook page.
Love it.
And we did we did update Facebook with the, public hearings this evening.
Wait, so Kurt, we are going to do phone banking on the 22nd and the 23rd to town residents to try to get them to come to this public hearing, and so we want to have something before then.
Right.
If you and I can meet in the next week with them,
Yes.
I don't know if you're free in the evenings.
Sure you don't want me to phone back?
You want a phone bank? Absolutely. We need volunteers.
All right, you got it.
All right, cool. I'll let you know.
Yeah, actually, next week is pretty busy. I mean, Monday night meetings, Tuesday, planning board. Wednesday, well, you have a meeting Wednesday, a work
Mhm.
session, so then, and then, Thursday, there's the joint meeting, I think. with
Thursday's
the-
the
Zoning
joint meeting,
definition.
the following Tuesday is the
Thursday's
zoning
also
board meeting.
astronomy night.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I really did try to make people happy.
Okay, I'm gonna move,
Well,
we go into
I don't think
executive
we're
session.
back on yet.
Wait, we don't need to go into executive session.
Yes, so Kurt can go home.
So you can.
Oh.
All right.
Well, I appreciate what you guys do, but you don't always have.
Did, Ariana and Mr. Did you want to have Kurt in executive session to discuss the, no, I can't even say I can't.
The legal matter
certain
raised
legal
by
matters
our
that we
attorney.
plan on discussing tonight.
That has
Perhaps.
potential litigation.
The new one that we're going to?
Let's just go into executive session
Yes.
and if we
Yes,
need
let's
anything,
have
send
him
it
with
home.
us.
So Sally made the motion, I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
And what's the purpose of going in?
Potential litigation.
To discuss potential litigation.
And made the minutes note that we
We've
were
invited-
inviting the planner in with us.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Is there anything I can do for the board while you're gone?
Well,
Pass some laws over.
Hey, I have my paperwork.
you jumping jacks.
I'm gonna read. Okay, you can shut off completely for a while.
Okay. How long do you think it's gonna be?
I can't even begin to guess.
Okay.
I'm sorry. If I had to guess, they have 4 items. They have 4 potential items on their executive session. They may tackle just one item so that they can send the planner home. They may tackle all 4 items. I couldn't even begin to guess. So if you need a couple minutes, go ahead. They can wait for you.
Okay. Alright, well, I have to keep the video feed going, so I'll just zoom in on the flag.
Oh, they shut the computer. They shut it off all the time when.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, my boss just said we have to keep it running, but
Okay.
I don't know. This is my first time going out live, so sorry.
And there's no sound, right?
No sound, no.
Perfect.
Just stream video, but
Jason at time 9:25, seconded by me. 5 ayes.
Getting chilly in here.
Any decisions?
Yeah, it is.
What?
I think
Any decisions?
No decisions.
Ariana for a second.
Just shutting the window, I think.
Too much volume, losing it. Losing my grip.
No. Number 11 is off the agenda.
Yeah, that's off the agenda. That was a mistake. I'm waiting on some clarification on critical environmental areas.
Okay.
Should we get started?
Just, well, she should be right back. I don't know where she went. I guess I do know where she went.
Six.
5 actually.
Hmm?
5 actually. We haven't done that yet. Brian's thing?
Yeah.
No, we haven't done both.
Alright, maybe we should get started. Brian, well, you wanna, this is your,
You could put us back on.
You ready?
perfect timing. So Brian, it's all you.
Okay. So, as I'm sure you all read, I came up with a proposal for an additional type of workshop meeting. So I'll review it very quickly and then I'll open it up to questions. It's gonna serve as an informational meeting, where there'll be no voting, no decisions made, and more as just a public forum for us to discuss projects that we're interested in, committees, like committee reports, things like that we've been working on. It also requires that the department heads come in and present 5 minutes worth of their reports that they've been writing, or discussion, or issues that they're having, things of that nature. And then it gives each of the board time to ask questions of either fellow board members or the department heads who are here. We'll also include the attorney, hopefully. I mean, we'll have to ask him to schedule us in. But really, the reason I thought this would be a good idea is because not everyone gets to be here all day and really interact with everyone. I think it would be really beneficial to have all the masterminds of the village in one place and have the ability to discuss the issues of the village, and before the public as well, which I think, not everyone gets to see so much of the inner workings of the village. I think that'd be really beneficial to the public, provide transparency, openness. The structure of the meeting is extremely rigid as I've laid out, and we'll utilize the time clock to make sure it stays on task, because I would prefer not to have the department heads, or really any of us here, longer than we have to. So, we're trying to minimize broad, long tangential, discussions, and it'll just be straight to the point, whatever, a little less than 2 hours, we're in, we're out, and we're good. So that's the basic premise of it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or discussion. I guess that can start now.
I love this idea. I think the structure of it is good. I think it really goes along with everything that we have wanted workshop meetings to be, which is part of the point of it is the idea that the five of us can have a legal public discussion about any topic that we would like to, and I think it would be really beneficial just to have everything flow very smoothly, to have the public be able to see that conversation go on with everyone, and the idea that each of us could individually find out the answers to our questions and have every department head or whichever, maybe it's not a department head, but the employees having the same conversation 5 different times. There's a one time once a month where we can have this open dialogue, and then if there are any issues that are going on that might be ongoing that need to be brought to the board's attention, and it's not like they're not bringing it to your attention, but there's only so much time in every day, and maybe there's something going on that would be good for it to be brought to all of us. I don't know what that might be, but I feel like that's part of what this would be good for, and just the transparency factor.
Yeah, and on that note, I think there are some issues that we deal with several different departments, and yeah, we get an email here, get an email there, we piece it all together at the table or on our own, but I think it'll be really interesting to have, if we're discussing some sort of construction project, we have Blue here, we have Nancy here to talk about the costs, we get everyone's input, we have Kirk here to talk about the planning, we can ask our questions and really flush out and have a more like full-fledged discussion. I think that's a really key part of it.
Yeah, I was having conversations with people today in this LLI course about how to run an effective meeting, actually, is what we were talking about, but the idea of why we have meetings and how part of it is, the things that come out of meetings and the conversations that can be had, and how if the energies that were brought to this central location weren't all present, we wouldn't have the kinds of ideas that we have and things like that. And I just think, there's nothing but positives that can come out of this. Yeah.
Wait, Katie, before Sally, I think that's something to say before you start.
Katie can go first.
No, go.
Yeah.
By all means, go.
As I said to Brian in my email, I think the idea is real bad. I think if we're serious, we have to inconvenience ourselves first, and at the meeting, a regular village workshop meeting be held during the day. Because I don't believe you can require your department heads to come out extra at night. So I would be in favor of the idea, but I'd like to do it during the day.
Do you want to respond to that? Or?
I mean, yeah, I would be happy to respond to that. Although, I do understand that it would be an inconvenience that once a month we ask 2 hours of our employees. I believe as salaried department heads, we do have the right to require them to do that. I think in any public sector or private sector business, if your boss said, I'm going to have a 2-hour staff meeting after hours of work and you're going to be there, you're a salaried employee, you're required to be
But this
there.
isn't their boss doing that.
Oh, this is their boss. We are the collective. We are collectively
You
their
can't
boss.
actually tell them to come.
Yes, we can.
Well, but it's not Brian Kimby's trustee telling them to
Right.
come, it's the village board telling them to come.
And
It's
the
the
law
mayor
says,
telling them to
Mayor
come?
can tell
the law
them
says
to
that
come.
trustees cannot instruct
is
staff to
correct.
do anything whatsoever.
Not individually, but as
Not
a
in
board.
any case, you can't direct them, no, you can't, I'm sorry.
I-
That doesn't mean they wouldn't want to come, that's a whole other question. But you can't force them to come if they don't want to.
That's correct.
And from what I've heard, there's really, because I know that,
Is that legally true?
Yeah, I don't think.
And I've sent you guys the case law 3 or 4 times, I've been a broken record about this one.
I
but,
don't
Yeah.
The section of village law, section, what, I don't know, 4.
So if you told Kurt to come in tonight and talk about B3, and he said, nah, I'm not doing that.
I'd write him up, maybe, there'd be other consequences. For
So
insubordination.
you can require him to do that, and if he said no, he'd be insubordinate.
I can.
Because she's making
Okay, so
recommendations.
then we
to the board.
would, then we could direct you to do that.
No, you can't direct me to do anything. I'm decide.
This is where we disagree, but you're definitely wrong.
Except the law's on my side, you don't decide.
The law's not on your side.
Then show me where I'm wrong.
Show me where I'm wrong. And you haven't sent me any case law. So
Yeah, I didn't get
It's
it.
in the, it's in the,
definitely
it's in the NICOM handbook.
There's
it's in everything.
nothing in the NICOM handbook about that, and I've read through it more than once.
Look, but this is besides the point, because what's the point of doing this if you want to force department heads who don't want to be here to come? I mean, I'm sure that's not your goal. So that's really
The goal has absolutely nothing to do with the forcing or demanding or anything. It has to do. The goal has to do with transparency, and the goal has to do with open dialogue.
And one thing I hear most
But my
often from
point
staff,
and
I'm
the
sorry,
reason
staff. One thing I hear most often from staff, and I wrote this in an email to Brian earlier, was that, and it's not just this board, about just boards, you know, trustees, people on village boards, is that they don't pick up the phone, they don't ask, they're not curious, they don't want to know, and what I hear from them is
They're not
that,
curious. That seems good.
well, and you know, Brian, you're one of them. You're one of the people who doesn't
see,
call and doesn't.
You
they don't
say that, but I do, and the fact that I'm working 9 to 5 now makes it very difficult. And on my lunch break, my half-an-hour lunch break,
But not for the
I
past
do.
3 years.
that's completely false. And I would like to know which department head said that, because unless you're talking about Blue, because Blue's out and about. But I have a very close relationship with Nancy. I have been to the building department countless numbers of times. So I really can't see where you're coming up with this.
What I hear is
So-
that the trustees are not reaching out, and this was taken not just among departments because other staff heard about it as a really. I mean, they can't be bothered to make the effort, so we have to go to them. And why are we writing these weekly reports now? And everything is about
Because they're employed by the village. They're employed by the village. And they need to come before. The way I see it is the chain of command is all of the residents of the village are the super boss. Then we're mid-level management, then they're lower level management, and then there's the employees, the basic employees. So this is in essence them reporting to the public, which they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here
The
reporting
public
with
who
them.
pays the salaries.
I mean, I don't know any business where your boss wants you to come out, or your boss requests something of you, and you say, "Well, I'm not really into doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not a public official." Well, you still work for the public,
As an employee, when if a supervisor asks me to do something, I do it.
right?
And I don't expect anything different of other people that I'm not doing myself.
You're an hourly employee, and you have no supervisor role. Then I can say, "Well, you know what? I'm not going to require you to come in." But if you're a salaried employee and a department head, I think it's ridiculous not to ask that of them, and it's not a big time commitment.
It's 2 hours once a month.
First of all, we
Maybe
agreed
once a
the
month.
last time we talked about it, this is going to be once every 3 months, not once a month.
Well,
Well, we didn't have a final
No,
agreement.
don't
we
go-
didn't. Well, we didn't have a final agreement.
we didn't have any
We didn't have a
proposal
final
in front of
agreement.
I'm
us.
That
not
was a
giving up-
mentioned
I'm not
point.
giving up the workshop meeting.
Well, but then it's even less requirement of time, and it should be even less of an issue.
But what I'm saying, Ariana, is that you have this village has a history, unfortunately, good, bad, or indifferent. I believe that if we are serious about this and want to do it, there needs to be some compromise here. And I'm suggesting that we inconvenience ourselves as well and meet during the regular working time and require them to come. That's fine. But I think it is not fine if we're going to meet at 7:30 at night, once or 4 times a year, requiring employees to come back and meet with us. I just don't think it's going to engender the whole, what I thought I understood was the philosophical concept of this. I'm perfectly happy to support it and try it if we do it during the day.
But how can you ask the planner to come in here? I mean, how many meetings has he been to so far? But the other
Because he is
departments
making recommendations which affect the quality of life.
at our request, and we could easily
And so
not have
could everybody
him here
else's
at the meetings.
too.
What?
Brad,
I
why
don't
you
think-
compromise and agree to do it during the day and try it.
But-
If it works, it works.
But the reason why we don't have a consolidation meetings during the day because people can't come to them. And so I think if the purpose of this is to have transparency and open government, we should do it at a time when the public can be there.
Or at least watch from their homes. The majority of people are working 9 to 5, no?
Well,
I mean, I hear what you're saying, Sally. It's not
Right,
falling on
yeah,
deaf ears.
I
Because
can't support this as it is stated without some compromise to try and make this work. That's all I'm saying. If it's going to be, if this is the document and you're going to require people to come without any input or consideration of their time, I'm concerned about that. That's all I feel.
Well, I have probably a contrary view to some of you. I think if someone is a department head, I consider that part of management. And I know the government situation is different than the private sector, but in the private sector, if you're management, you're on call 24/7, and whatever you're needed, you do it. Because that's why you get paid more money, and that's why you have more responsibility, and so forth. So I don't have, any problem with asking the people who are in that kind of position to come in the evening, for example. And, I've seen the mayor's comments on some of these things about, that they're not gonna do this, and, not a politician, they're not gonna go on the camera, well, maybe we have to. Am I correct in saying that the board would write the job descriptions of the people who are the department heads?
Yes.
If that's so, then that's not their job description. Now, if we think it's important, then we can write it into their job description. I mean, I'm not going to making a crusade at this, but I think the people that work for you, and the taxpayers expect us, to do what's best and have the workforce work most efficiently for the village. Now, on the point of, have we, as individual trustees, called all the staff all the time and asked them all our questions? I make a point of not doing that, really. I have plenty of questions. And the mayor runs the staff, and, I can ask him if I have a question about it. And if there's something I'm particularly working on, a special project or something, then, I'll make an appointment with him. But if someone's a department head, they can't have 5 people calling them all the time, and so I think this is a better venue to have questions. But I don't think it should be looked at, we're trying to set them up to catch them in a problem, or
No.
that's not the intent, and I know
No,
it's not
not
your
at all.
intent, it's not my intent, it's to work together. But still, if you're the department head and you're responsible for the people who are working for you, then there should be a dialogue about what's going on and what direction we're going in to try to make things better. So, I guess those are my comments. If we're going to try to encourage people, on the board to contact everybody, get out to know them, I have no problem with that, but I don't think that's going to help the mayor run the staff. If we're all out there doing our thing with the staff, it's my experience, that wouldn't be helpful.
To let them
Getting to know them and understand, some kind of relationship, yes. And if we have a particular situation where we have a project, we want to know the input, or we need to know the fiscal policy, then we ask the treasurer. I understand that. We're responsible for getting prepared for what we want to do, but I don't think we can just be out there all the time asking questions that are going to undermine, the mayor running the staff efficiently.
Sure.
But I don't feel bad about having the people who are getting high salaries and are supposed to have responsibilities once in a while come out. I think monthly is too much.
Monthly's good.
I think quarterly would be fine.
Okay.
And I don't have a problem with asking them to come out at night. And if they don't think that's part of their job, then maybe we should sit down and, this is what we think your job is.
Yeah.
Decide, and this is it. Because basically they work for the village.
Yeah.
Otherwise you have the tail wagging the dog, and I don't think the people who elected us would expect out of us.
I agree.
I mean, that's my opinion.
Sure. And so if you wanted a compromise, the one I would reluctantly make would be to allow them to compensate those hours that they spent here somewhere else. So if you want to come in,
I mean, give them comp time.
well, not comp time. Well, I guess you can call it comp. Yeah, whatever, however you want to
That's
describe
what
it. I mean, that would be my reluctant compromise. But really, I truly feel that as a salaried employee, you shouldn't be expected comp time. That's part of your package. That's why you get the vacation days. That's why.
This board historically has never written job descriptions or expectations for its department heads, and in fact, until this budget year compensated them according to what they compensated union employees. I'm really having a hard time sitting here listening to people talk about these wonderful department heads that no one has ever recognized their position as department heads and rewarded them appropriately, although I think the mayor and I did try this year to do a compensation which was distinctly and slightly different than that which prior boards have negotiated with their union employees. So, you know, I'm having a little trouble
Okay, that's
hearing this because, I mean, I certainly believe in management and management being properly compensated and expected to do certain jobs and oversee and, you know, are we
Yeah, but-
going to allow them not to have to do weekly reports? I think the mayor expects that. That is his right and privilege to direct. I think if you can compromise on providing comp time, which would allow them then to come, I could concur with that and support that. If we're not gonna, if that's not gonna be part of the stipulation of agreement, I would like to make this a one-time event to begin with, and if it works well, to continue it. But I am not going to support it, you know, as it is right now, being 4 times a year period, the end. I would like to try it, I'd like to try it. I would like to, you know,
How about we try it 4 times?
no, I wanna try it once.
Well, let's say we do, because you know what, the first time you do something may not run that well. So you give it one, okay, well that worked out all right. Maybe the second one, we're now in the flow of it. By the third one, we either have it going, or by the end of it, we're like, you know what, this really isn't proving to be useful. Let's scrap the idea. You know, it doesn't have to be a full commitment in perpetuity, but I think
But like 1 year, commit to a
maybe
year.
four consecutive, every quarter, and then if the idea is terrible, you know, whatever, we can scrap it. And you know, I see your point about the union versus the salaried employees, and have the salaried employees, have they been receiving their just compensation versus the collective bargaining unit, and that is part of being the benefit of being in a collective bargaining unit is people are doing the bargaining for you. And you know, I don't think that our department heads necessarily were all afforded a proper negotiation session when it came to salaries in the past, and I think
They were
that's
ignored, not even afforded.
yeah. Well, you know, we can discuss how it was, and I agree with you on that, and I think that's definitely something that could be discussed down the road as well. And I think that's also taking you know, a softer hand against the public bargaining unit. I think that's also what happened, because I'd say some of our salaried employees are more closely to just compensated than others are, and I think some are really doing a ton of work and not getting the reward that they deserve. So, you know, and then when you have in comparison what's happened with the union and guaranteed every year, now it becomes this greater disparity, and I think that is unfair, and I've definitely heard that complaint from
And it needs to be addressed.
various department heads that I never talked to.
I wouldn't think it would be a good idea to offer your management people comp time. Now, maybe as it works out when they're working with the mayor, they'll work something out, but I mean, just the principle of giving comp time to management people, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you as well.
I mean, they're part of the management team, you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. Are you like completely no on this, no matter what no matter what compromise, or what do you, I mean?
I figured I'd just, whatever the four of you, if there's a consensus, I'll bring it back to them and ask them what they want to do.
Oh, I don't think that's what this board is saying, Jason.
Well,
It's not a
yeah,
matter of asking
I
them
know,
if they
I
want
know.
to.
But it's also, I'm not kidding when I say that there's no authority to direct staff, and I'm not gonna pretend that.
So you won't direct them if we ask you to, is what you're saying. Well, you think this is not a great idea, and you don't want to.
I think until some of the other concerns and frustrations of the staff are dealt with, I think this would be counterproductive to what you. I think it would do more harm than good. Based on what you write is the
How
goal
so?
of it, because I think there's relationships that need to be repaired first, and this is whether you believe you're ordering people around or not. That's how it's perceived. We're being summoned when the board. We're already bending over backwards to
That's
inform
what
the
I'm
board.
afraid of.
And
I'm
why,
afraid
if there's
that
another,
it's gonna be seen that way too.
this is,
I really am.
because they're already, they didn't want to write the reports to begin with. And I said to them, no, because this came out of a meeting we were all at. I think that was after the camera was gone. We're talking about some of the roadblocks to communication where things got muddled up habitually. And the reason we have those reports is because this board requested to be more informed of what's going on. And so the reports get out, and again, I'm not saying people have never spoken to the staff, but they read our minutes, they watch the thing on TV if they have it available, and they see our conversations, they watch what we do. And when we have conversations here that, are just, that tangle up our conversation, our work here, that could have been easily answered if someone would just talk to Blue, or it doesn't what I insert, Joe or Jim or Sally, it doesn't matter. Whoever. It frustrates them because they want to be taken seriously as professionals. That means we have to meet them there, and that means repair. If those relationships are strained, and this is what you're hearing even secondhand, and I wrote this in the email that maybe the first step, maybe this could come later with consensus, but the first step might be to build those bridges one-on-one a little bit first, so that maybe the department heads would be excited to come instead of see it as someplace they're being dragged to by people who don't understand what they do and haven't reached out to them individually.
Well, wouldn't this be a good?
I could be wrong.
No. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I feel like this could be a good forum for them to, you come out, you say your piece, oh, this is what's gone on the last, quarter.
Well, they
this is
don't
what
want
we're
to.
doing.
They're uncomfortable being on camera. They don't want to be on TV. We're asking people that this board has a strained relationship with to come out and put themselves in an incredibly uncomfortable position, and live on camera, and possibly have to, be cross-examined or grilled. And again, that all it takes is that perception for that frustration to grow.
Right, but I mean, and I think I could.
Not everyone is as comfortable as we are, live on TV, and
right.
We don't hire them to be on TV.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, I think it's unfair to ask some of our salaried employees to come out and be before the camera, and other ones that we say no, they don't have to.
What I guess.
Yeah, I don't understand what the difference
Okay,
is there.
what I guess I think is unfair, and perhaps I'm wrong, but I think it's unfair for this board to sit, not this specific board, but village boards in general, to sit and pass legislation, never having consulted the professionals that we have, asking them to critique or review or make suggestions about something, because I can tell you, the parking plan that you are going to receive from Mariana and I for next workshop discussion, just because I think it's the right way to do it, I and to give me input into their thoughts about how stupid Ariana and I might be being if we're proposing something that doesn't make any sense. And I was told by two of them, and it was the first time they had ever been asked, their view, their professionalism, their critique on a piece of legislation that was coming before this board. And that's why I'm hesitant about this, because until we start practicing what we're preaching, I think to ask other people to practice what we demand is wrong. I mean, I personally, I'm not as reluctant, I think, as the mayor, but I think I pretty much said how I feel, and I just think that we have to reach out more for their professional expertise before they're gonna be comfortable to come and sit here in front of us. That's the way I feel. Now, I may be wrong, but that's,
I feel like this
when
is-
somebody says to me, this is the first time I've ever been asked my opinion on legislation that's going to impact them and require their help to put it in place, to be told that they've never been asked before, I think
I feel
is
like this
very
is,
sad.
I feel like this is an opportunity for that. And I feel like this is an
Yeah.
opportunity
I don't
for
think it is an
a
opportunity.
department head to say, hey, you know, I noticed that you guys were planning this, and I just wanted to kick out my thoughts to you. You know, look, here's the one other thing. Right now, currently, there are some people on this board who have the ability to spend a lot of time during working hours, you know, working with the different department heads. And the mayor, luckily, is now a full-time mayor and has the ability to be here and work with them. But
Well, he's supposed to.
right. But so I mean, before that, it was a part-time mayor, so you had someone who was working, you know, depending on who it was, but theoretically could be working full-time. And really, this is a part-time position, so anyone at this table could be working full-time. Now, let's say we had 5 full-time people, or you know, I guess at this point, just the mayor would, you know, be here full-time, but everyone else is working full-time. How would you find that correspondence to happen? You know, I think
Send an email and
Yeah,
ask
but-
them to review it. This is
Sure,
a no-brainer.
but we don't send emails to our department heads. I know I do. Do you not?
I generally send and ask if I can come and see them.
Okay,
And
but
then-
you get to come and see them. Now, but does someone who works full time, would they have the opportunity to come and hang out and have a discussion for an hour or 2 hours?
I would think if you had a piece of legislation that was very, very important that you were proposing to this board, you would find a way to do it.
Of course, you send it to them and you ask for their comments, and we do that all the time.
And that's very understandable, but not everybody has the leeway in their working life to be able to do that. And it doesn't even have to be
But don't you
a
think-
member of this current board. What if we did have more people who were full time? Then we
That's
would
what I'm
be
saying.
precluding their ability to be interacting with the staff here.
You're missing my point, Ariana, so I'm not gonna say it anymore.
I'm not missing it. I just think that we're not in agreement.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think until we show that we are really, really serious about wanting to have communication in a positive way, we don't use terminology that is used here.
well, this is
wouldn't do it.
just a paper draft proposal. It's not actual legislation. No, I put whereas in there, but that was just for the sake of just saying why I'm
Saving
doing
time
it.
for later, when you integrate the resolution.
Well, I guess. But the thing is, I would prefer to
What's the
not do this
language that's not good?
around you. I would prefer to like have your support and want to ask these people to come in and sit with us. You know, I mean, I don't really see it as a huge thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the language in here that's so off-putting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would serve us well to improve communication. I just open up the inner workings of the village to the general public. I think all of these are just really positive things.
You don't find whereas off-putting? I
No.
The actual
If
word
I were an
whereas.
Well, that's what
I
I'm
would find
asking.
that very
What about it
off-putting.
is off-putting? I'm not saying. I'm saying I don't find it off-putting. What about it? Do you think it is? Because I
Each
think.
department head and our attorney will be required to attend and provide a brief departmental report.
But that. Wait, where
My-
is that? That's on the whereas.
If you want to
No, it's
have a
past the
conversation with people, then you invite them to coffee and a conversation with this board.
So we can have coffee, we can have cookies, if
Okay,
that makes
you
you feel
don't
better.
require it, you just say, I'd love if you would join us to talk about what you're working on.
Okay, but I would love for everyone to be there, and I would seriously love it to the point where I want everyone there. That's my point. Like, yes, I
seriously love it to the point.
really love everyone to be here. That's
And to ensure it, I'm gonna require.
and to ensure it, I will give you all cookies. If you want me to put something about cookies in here, I would be happy to.
And get rid of all the whereas and say, we really are interested in getting to know you and having you get to know us.
Right.
That's very different from what that
Then,
says.
so no, you want me to take out the whereases, and then add in a part that.
More, I'd like you to ask the mayor
Hold on, ask me.
to have a conversation with department heads to
Yes.
see if they are willing to have an informal coffee with the board to talk about ideas.
Not at a meeting.
Hmm?
Not at a meeting. No reports.
Not to begin with, I wouldn't.
Well, but it's got. But I mean, well, all right. How do we have? How does how do the five of us get together informally?
Right.
No, by informal, I mean there's no agenda, there's no required reports, Ariana.
I see.
We
Okay.
can actually get together whenever we want.
Right.
Just gotta let the newspaper know, and we could come hang out here for 6 hours and just play Scrabble and just. But we just have to let the newspapers know ahead of time. That's all.
I'm not gonna have a Scrabble meeting, are we?
Maybe Christmas time.
I don't know.
Katie, you said
Katie, I think
something.
yeah, you had something to say.
I think my limited experience with talking to the other department heads definitely doesn't stem from people who say, I'm not coming out at night. Certainly you have people who are very dedicated to their jobs. I think that there is definitely issues with this on-camera 5-minute presentation.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of people who are extremely good at their jobs
Mm-hmm.
but are not public presenters.
Okay.
I think if you hold it in a forum of a meeting where you are not only inviting the board but the general population to come in, I think you open up department heads who are not used to being on camera
Mm-hmm.
to possibly being verbally attacked by members of the general population.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately in the course of business, a department head does the best that they can, and sometimes they have to disappoint somebody.
Sure.
Sometimes they have to make somebody unhappy to follow the village code appropriately.
Sure.
And that is and opening it up and saying we're gonna bring our department heads in and they're gonna talk about their jobs on camera. That is a wonderful opportunity for somebody who possibly has an axe to grind to verbally attack that staff member right then and there.
Right.
I also think someone like myself, who is not a public speaker to large groups of people, could have the potential to be upset, and not upset, but use the wrong word, be misquoted, say something that potentially could cause a problem because they're not used to filtering themselves for a television audience. I think a more constructive way to even consider opening this conversation is the informal discussion. Even if it were an evening discussion to complement the evening hours, I think a little less formal, not on television, might be an icebreaker to the situation. That would just be my very personal, very humble opinion and a consolidation of some of the information that other department heads have kind of shared on their thoughts. But I haven't polled anybody. I'm not speaking as the
Right, no, of
representative
course.
for
Right.
Right.
You're not unionizing, are you?
No,
Is that right?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I want, like, I mean, can we do that off camera?
Yeah, you can do anything with that.
I mean, there some of the things
Fill in
that,
all the details later.
some of the things that you mentioned, I think are easily solved.
No public comment.
What, first of all,
No
if it's a workshop, we don't have to let anybody have anything to say, or any other time, quite frankly, under the law, we don't
Sure.
We don't
ever have to let
public
anybody say
comment, no.
for any time.
Yeah.
But, so if you have this meeting, secondly, I think they're doing weekly reports
Right.
now. So once a quarter, maybe, they come to a workshop meeting, they bring their weekly report, which everyone might have seen the day before, and then, does anybody have any questions? So they don't have to have a speech, they don't have to have a presentation, and they don't have to have a camera either. There's no rule, it's an open meeting, people can come and sit here and be quiet,
Right.
but you don't have, we only
It doesn't
film
have to
meetings
be
because
filmed.
we're spending the money to film the meetings, we don't have to do that.
Right.
So if they're worried about the cameras, so there's no camera.
That's
If
fair.
that's another way to look at it, and no public comment. Now,
No
if
public.
somebody is gonna hear that, but they're gonna hear what we discuss about what's going on at other meetings anyway, so, they're never, if you're a leader and a department head, you're gonna have to take some responsibility. So I think we can soften the impact if their public speaking part, and it's not you're not out there to get anybody, you're just to have information.
Yeah.
And then maybe after you do that once or twice, then maybe they say, well, we don't care if it's
Okay.
on camera,
Right.
and you decide that as you go along.
Right.
But, so maybe those are ways that this could work.
Yeah.
And if the mayor doesn't wanna require the people to do that, then maybe at some point in time in the near future, if the board writes the job description of the employees, then maybe we should do that for the department heads. They'll make it very clear what their responsibilities are. I don't think, as a fairly highly compensated individual, that should bother them as being part of management. That's why they're a leader, that's why they're in charge of people,
Right.
and that's just part of the job, I mean, that's how I would look at it if I was in their position.
Sure.
So, I guess those are suggestions.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that part of when I came up with this idea was to bring it out to the public and to bring out the operations of what's going on a little more to the public.
That's what I was thinking about.
And I think that's a really cool aspect of it. But I think it's also, but the other part of it that I really like is that we have all the brains in the same room and we get to discuss things. And that to me, I would say is the most important part. Secondary would be the transparency, although, I was kind of hoping on that.
Well, I'm thinking I'll agree to an initial more informal session, maybe without cameras. But I feel like if this is something we're going to implement, that cameras would be a very important part of it, because for me this is about transparency with the community.
Right.
And for people to be able to see, I don't like that things go on behind closed doors at all.
Right.
I think that everything should be open to the public, and I really like, for instance, Kirsten Gillibrand. She posts all her meetings, her entire schedule online for the public to see, so that people know who she's meeting with, when she's meeting with them, and some of them are public meetings that people can show up for, and other things are just people can write her a Facebook message and be like, hey, what was that meeting about, because they saw that it happened. And I don't like that meetings happen here and maybe other board members don't even know about them. And I think that if we want to really make things open to the public, it's not that there are secret things going on that people don't know about and should know about. We need to unclose it. It's about the fact that there's nothing secret going on. Therefore, you can know everything that we're doing.
And no work is going on because we're requiring so many people to be so many meetings so that we can all be transparent.
Are you talking about us?
I
Are you talking about
think-
the consolidation?
I'm talking about all the meetings. And there are committee meetings. Your committee meetings aren't televised. we're not doing our quarterly report. So let's not push the transparency issue too far.
I think we should push
Okay.
it very far. That's
But you're not
definitely-
doing
I
it.
think we're
Hey,
at fault
working
too
on-
then.
I'm working
But-
on my quarterly reports. I can't wait till you get them. They're gonna be.
I mean, the
very,
fire,
very crazy. I've been working hard on them. I'm putting them together because I was,
I've been working so hard, it's taken me 4
it's taken me
quarters.
4 quarters. But they're getting there. But here's the thing.
I
Look, there's no reason not to take a step forward just because we haven't taken other steps. Okay.
I won't even
You all right?
address
You
that.
all right?
I support what Katie has said, and I think I absolutely heard and understand what she's saying, and I think it should be an informal meeting. I don't think it should be in this room. I think it should be in the small room, everybody around the table, equal to each other, with coffee and dessert, and see how it goes. And I can support that, but I won't support this.
You're writing down coffee and dessert.
Just because
That's some antiquated writing over there.
I think,
I know. Is there any
think
preference
this
to what kind of
idea-
dessert you'd like?
I think the
Tea room
concept
dessert.
that you're trying to develop is a good one, but even pregnancy takes 9 months.
You couldn't have gone with Romans and Roses.
Yeah. Like, come on.
So I think we ought to be
I
in
love your face, Brian.
trouble.
Like,
Yeah.
No, I
No,
think,
okay. All right. I'm willing to, because I don't want anybody to feel attacked
No,
by
I'm
this.
not trying to.
That's not the goal here.
No.
That's absolutely not. We're not trying to play gotcha and have people. We're not really doing question hour from Parliament where we're putting people on the spot. We're trying to have something. It's fun to watch. I wouldn't want to be in it, but so I think I'm open to going with this first initial session, and I think maybe after. How about if we do that and then we reevaluate, and we go and we do this initial session, and then we come back and we say, that went really nicely. I think the next time people will be more comfortable with being on camera, or that went really terribly. Maybe we should never do
Maybe
this
we
again.
should never use it. And that doesn't mean they should come here and just think I hate everything.
But
right?
turn the camera off a second.
No.
No.
So okay. So
I want to say
You
something.
can't actually say in executive session.
so let's.
No, it's not appropriate for executive session,
Oh,
because I think we.
That-
But it's not over to the cameras.
Oh,
so.
God.
We did it in public session, so I will bring it up. And that is, we have a credibility problem. We have a credibility problem with our employees. And it's all well and good to say we want to have a gathering. I sat in a recent board meeting where one of our employees was attacked by a board member. That is not leading an employee to believe, or any other employees that saw it, to believe that this board really does want to communicate, does want to have a working relationship and a supportive relationship with each other. So we've got to step back and say, okay, we blow it sometimes. Now, if we're serious about this, we're going to have to develop this in a positive, cordial way that is not the I gotcha approach.
I don't think that the attack comment is fair because I think some people would perceive it as an attack and other people would perceive it as a legitimate question. So.
Well,
Well,
I'm not
well,
gonna.
We can me and you can discuss that at some other time.
Mhm.
But and okay. So look, if we're gonna do it like this, then let's I guess we could set some parameters that we should all be able to agree upon,
Mhm.
and then we'll go from there. We'll set it maybe for our next workshop, like the November workshop, right? Is it not next week? 'Cause that's too soon. But I would say informal, no camera, presentation. But it's like an informal presentation.
Are we gonna have our November
Informal
workshop meeting? It's on the
conversation.
21st, and Thanksgiving is the 22nd, 23rd.
So the list to have a Christmas party for our employees.
We do
You mean a
have-
Thanksgiving party?
What?
We don't have it.
You mean a Thanksgiving
Yeah.
party?
It's given by,
I mean, this is Thanksgiving,
This is
so are we having a?
Thanksgiving.
Why not?
We can give thanks for them.
So before we discuss, I guess before we discuss the
yeah.
date, let's think about it. So does
Maybe we
everyone
could do
feel
it earlier in the
comfortable
week.
with the basic parameters I've set here, except no camera and
I'm comfortable with what Ariana said. And that is informal, no cameras, no agenda, begin the conversation in
See,
a very
okay.
respectful way. See how that goes. And if it works well,
yeah.
build on it.
I mean, the only other thing of this was it was kind of a chance for us to speak to the community outside of, like if I wanted to sit here for 5 minutes and talk about this idea I had, I mean, I guess that's what we're doing right now, but it takes up a very large amount of time, and I thought that having these like 5-minute little, I wouldn't call it a stump speech because now we're campaigning, but like a 5-minute little blurb to say whatever you want, I think that's like kind of nice. And the fact that it's not structured in a meeting where we're going to be making decisions or moving forward, I thought that
Well,
we could, like your transportation thing is coming up, and you just want to be like, oh, I've been working on this transportation thing, and it's got here, and I've talked to these people and whatnot. I mean, we could all sit and do that every meeting, but I thought this would be just a nice
But
way to do it.
now you're changing your purpose, I think, because you said for the public.
Right.
That's a very different purpose than having a conversation with your employees.
It was a
Because
joint,
what
it was a
you're
joint
saying
thing.
is you want your employees to perform for the public. So why not put their weekly reports on the website and let the public know what they've communicated to the board?
The reason why we weren't doing that is because there were confidential things that were involved in there, like personnel items or.
I haven't read
Well-
any reports that.
Well, but that was our. I'm not saying that's what's in them. I'm saying that was our conversation about why they were not going to be publicized.
I think they should be publicized. If you want transparency, why not put their weekly
I
reports on?
don't disagree with that, but that's just the conversation that we had. That's all I'm saying. I'm okay with that. I think that's a great idea. We should totally post this online.
I mean, if the purpose of this is for the public, then put their weekly reports on the website. If the purpose is truly
It's both.
want to communicate with your department heads and to have them know you and you know them and have a conversation going about what we all
I mean,
can
this
do.
says both of those things.
This says both of those, and it's not like I like to be friendly with the people I work with. I think we all have good relationships, and I think it's a very nice thing. But at the end of the day, there's a level of professionalism, and I mean,
It's not just about making nice.
really, what's funny about that?
Nothing.
What?
Really, nothing.
Okay. Well, I think there's a level of professionalism, and that we have a duty to report what we do to the public, and I think that those are the people we answer to at the end of the day. And I think when you take a job in the public sector, that's part of the gig. Like
Part of it is that you're in the public eye as well.
You go and you report before. Look, so it's for some department heads, but not for other department heads. We're picking and choosing who has to come before the public.
No, I'm saying I don't agree with you. I think we are the ones who report to the public. We are the ones that are elected. The people that we employ are not public officials.
They're public employees.
That's because they belong to a union.
And-
No, that's
and
because
when-
they're employed by the public, and the
Yeah,
people
and
who
when
pay
I-
their salaries
I
are the
agree.
taxpayers of New Paltz.
Because
There's no
when
it's
you
not-
when
But
you
you
talk to
are-
the community
you
about
are
who they're
elected.
watching, it's not just us.
yeah,
To
so it's
watchdog that and to
That's
evaluate that and to cause employees to perform or do whatever. But
So
there
then this
is
would have
nothing in
that
public employment
alone.
that says that a public employee must perform for the public.
Yes, there is, and I
And
think.
there's none.
So you're telling me on Capitol Hill they're not calling in heads of different departments before Congress and asking them questions about their
I'm
job
sure they're not,
performance?
and when they do, it's all for political purposes.
Well, that's ridiculous. But we're local government. We're supposed to be better than that. Number one, and
I
number
don't think
two.
we've proven that yet.
Well, you're holding it up. That's what's happening right now.
No, because I cannot support this, I find very dictatorial and very exactly the opposite of what you say you want to achieve. And I am very, very open to the idea of attempting to form better relationships.
You want to have friendships with everyone.
I don't want to have
You want
friendships.
to pass.
But I certainly am not going to sit and on a board that treats its employees or its department heads less well than the employees that it negotiates contracts
We
with.
can
Brian, and you
negotiate
sat on that board.
salaries. We can negotiate salaries. And you know what? I wasn't part of those union discussions. So you can't hold me to that.
You're a board member. You voted on it.
Oh, so when the meetings happen and I'm not made privy to the meetings, then that's my fault.
No.
Okay, well,
You should be asking to be there.
Oh, but I didn't ask. Were you there when I didn't ask?
I have no idea how you all ended up with the contract.
Okay, so you're making accusations that.
I'm not going to take responsibility for a contract that I had no
Okay. Well, so then start negotiating the contract now and get the fair pay for the fair employees, how you feel it should be. But it doesn't mean I don't think our employees should be reporting to us and acting
Employees
accordingly.
and contracts are different. Department heads and employees are different.
Okay. So
What I
negotiate
said
your
to
union
you
contract
is
and negotiate your department head salaries independently and fight for that if that's what you believe.
I've
But
done it.
Okay.
I've done it.
Well, are you doing it now currently? You
We
doing
did
now?
it.
You negotiated
In the
with
last
union?
budget,
You took away from the union and
we-
moved it into the
In
salary
the last
raise?
budget, we recognized our department heads are not union employees.
Okay.
So,
Alright. So,
let's bring this to closure.
I was just thinking the same thing. I don't know. I'm kind of just looking to everyone else to see what everyone's comfortable with.
Well,
and where we
to be
should head.
completely honest, I would vote on this as is, and I would vote in favor of it.
Yeah.
I would also be willing to compromise and go with Sally's suggestion to do that first, but I would only do that contingent upon the idea that we are going to revisit this in a serious way, and that is only going to be an informational stepping stone, not just this one time that we do this thing and then nothing. Because I think that this is important, and I think the reasons why we want to do it are stated very clearly here, and it's multiple. There's multiple layers to why we find why
Right.
it says we should do this, and I agree with all of these reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that it can be taken the wrong way, because I think it can be taken the wrong way, but hopefully the intention is clear enough, and the intention is
But my point is, you're so,
Stated.
if you feel so strongly about it, put it on as a motion and be done with it.
Well, we're polling the board for their approval of this.
yeah. He's polling us right now to see how where we all stand on this. So that's where I stand on
I will vote no on this.
Get out of here. Really?
Wanted to
it. Sally, we didn't know.
Okay, no? Okay.
I don't know.
So you want to just answer it so we can move on?
Well, I'm in favor of the concept. I think it could be said a little bit more diplomatically, but I'm in favor of it on a quarterly basis. And if we're not willing to ask them to do this, then I'm in favor of writing the department heads what their duties are, so that it'll be clear. And because I think management people are management people, and as far as I know, I get along with all of them, and I respect them, and I have never treated them any other way, and I think they understand that, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we shouldn't work together to try to make this village work as efficiently as we can, and I don't see anything wrong with this. So on a quarterly basis, you know, I would vote for it. I don't, you know, mind a compromise, but, you know.
You're in favor where it is, as it stands. Let me just toss this out there. Minutes. I mean, kind of say no minutes because the clerk's going to be there speaking as department head, and I don't want to require both. Is that fair?
I mean, unless
Or
we're required to have minutes, I
Oh.
don't see why.
I do
Well, because we
believe
have
we-
motions and actions, but I mean that's all you're required to do. So it'd be motion to open, motion to close.
We're not, I
don't think
thought
we-
the idea was, this is more in the nature of a workshop meeting, and it's not something they're gonna report and then we'll vote on something, I don't.
No,
Right,
it
that's
says
exactly what I'm
very no
saying.
voting allowed. It says very
Right.
clearly.
Right, but we would have to move to open it and move to close it. So that I mean that would be the.
I can take those minutes.
Right. Okay.
We still have a dozen, just so you know, it's 10:30, we have a dozen items listed on the
Yes.
agenda and 4 for executive session.
Okay. So just to you then, how do you feel about it?
Oh, don't joke around.
What?
What?
Oh, I said don't bother joking around, let's just move on. I'm not gonna support this under any circumstances.
Even just a friendly information.
If the department heads are interested in doing that, then yeah. But I'm gonna, like I said before, I'm gonna ask what they would like to do. Cause you don't have any authority to instruct them to do anything. And that's just the way it is.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I'll have to look into that. So Sally, are you okay with doing light informational, no camera,
I
no
said
minutes,
what I was in favor of.
the
If we
snacks?
invite them to an informal get-together,
I'll pass that message on.
Committee
I'm in
report?
favor of, if they wanna do this, then I'd
no
be all in favor of
records,
it.
no minutes, no nothing. It is just, we'll go into session and we'll go out of session, but the purposes are to just have coffee and a discussion with our employees, period. And that's all I'm interested in, I won't support anything else.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so what do you think we'll set the next workshop meeting as this? And I mean, I don't know if we have to,
Is this off the table now?
well, not permanently, just for the next meeting.
So is there a motion on the floor, or what?
No,
there's
not
no
yet.
motion.
So you're gonna revise it for the next meeting, or what's the next step?
Well, I'd like to just set this meeting at the parameters that we've just discussed.
Yeah. I think when you said next meeting, you didn't
The
mean
next
our
workshop.
next village board
No,
meeting.
the
You
next
meant
workshop meeting.
right. Okay, that's what I thought.
And then I'll reword it, and you know if anyone has suggestions or however we want to go from there for the following after the informational meeting, I'll bring this back to the board and say, what do you guys think? Where can we go from here? And then we can have another brief discussion about it. Hopefully, not as heated as this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have to move? Like, I don't know what the action is. I have to move. Okay, so I move that the next workshop meeting will be
The November one, is that what you're saying?
the November,
Next
not
one, so
yeah,
we-
not
I
next
won't be
week.
here, so know that.
You're on it.
I might just point out that
You all
unless
know
you-
I won't be
What's
here.
that?
I might point out that unless you revisit that date, there might be department heads who have I don't know, but
People
the
on
will plan to
vacation.
take, because that is the busiest travel day of the year.
Yeah,
I personally
yeah.
don't care, but
Okay.
I think we should either move that meeting to that Monday.
That's. I mean, yeah. As long as we're not bumping other meetings, I guess.
Well, you know, I think we should look into moving that meeting anyway because of
'Cause you
people
wanna-
going away for Thanksgiving.
Right. So you want to just do it on that Monday? Is that?
Well, I mean, I can't just make that decision right
Okay.
here, but I mean, looking at the calendar and what other meetings there are, Monday looks like it might be a good option because Tuesday's planning board.
Yeah, I would be fair with Monday.
I mean, that's you know, up to everybody, obviously.
So your motion will be to do this particular type of meeting at our November workshop meeting, which you're suggesting be on the Monday the 19th,
Monday the 19th.
as opposed to Wednesday the 21st.
Yes. And it will be non-required, but presence pleasantly accepted and enjoyed. And there will be light refreshments, and we will discuss matters of each department and any questions that the board has. And we cordially request that everyone please attend.
7:30.
7:30. And it will be no more than 2 hours.
I'm gonna second with a friendly amendment to the 19th or date that is chosen. If the 19th doesn't work, I'm looking at the Village Hall calendar.
That's fair. I mean, I do see I have a historic preservation that day.
Yeah,
don't know if
I
we-
was just gonna say there's that meeting. There's potentially a consolidation planning and zoning committee if they're still meeting. If we're gonna need another one or not, I don't know. But then and then landlord tenant relations council, which I know doesn't meet at all at the moment, but maybe there'll be a miraculous turnaround there.
Okay.
So there are conflicts.
There are conflicts on the 19th. That's what I'm saying.
What about the 20th?
20th, Shade Tree Commission, Amnesty International, regular meeting of the planning board.
That's Tuesday.
Yeah, that's Tuesday.
If you wanna do it, Brian, could you just recommend that we do it at our next workshop? That way we don't have to sit here and figure out when rescheduling would have to be.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, that's what it was.
cause we have a lot to do even. if
At our
we
next
don't.
workshop meeting.
Okay.
How about that's the friendly
Yeah.
amendment? That's
Okay.
I second with that friendly
Great.
amendment. You accept?
Oh, I accept. Graciously.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Still opposed? Even though it was a request?
What's that?
I said even though I'm not required, I'm just requesting. You still didn't oppose?
Yeah, I wanna see what they have to say. I wanna get their opinion on the matter.
Sally, I'm
It's
sorry, I didn't
important.
get your vote.
Hmm?
I didn't get your vote.
I
She
voted
said
aye.
aye.
Alright. Is there anything that, we have a meeting next Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Workshop.
Is there anything that we wanted to deal with then? I think four of these are kind of linked fracking, right? Am I reading this right?
I move that 7, 8, 9, 10 be moved to the workshop. The only thing I know on the workshop is our planning proposal. Is there
And-
anything else?
I think that
Our parking
we've
proposal.
asked, the Huguenot Historical Society, a short presentation. That's,
I don't know about Huguenot Historical Society.
well, I mean, that's been a request of the clerk to be on.
That's right.
Number
We
9.
just, we would have had it wouldn't have been put together till tomorrow.
No, but I thought we said that the fracking laws, that would be workshop. That's what I'm moving. 7, 8,
Is that-
9.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think we said that. Because
I said I am moving.
Oh, you want to move them to our
I'm putting
workshop
them
next week?
onto the workshop because
Well-
as far as I know, the only thing on the workshop agenda, and Katie, you can tell me, is our parking plan proposal.
And also with the Huguenot Historic Society. That's the note on the bottom of your sheets that say table to 10/17.
But it's still more time than we have tonight, unless.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
Really wanna go
my
through it.
comment right now in terms of moving it is, does anybody have any issue that they feel like they need to discuss? That is the reason why we should move it to have a discussion, or can we or are people comfortable with this and we can set a public hearing? Because if we're not going to have a lengthy discussion on it, then
I had some comments, but I mean, nothing like
Can I,
cataclysmic, but just
can I make
things
a,
I thought, some holes I thought should be plugged in.
can I make a suggestion? You have the three proposed statutes, local laws, by our attorney in the packet. Why don't we see what comments everyone on the board has by next week? Also, Ariana and I have asked him to have a call or a conference call with the attorney attorneys in Ithaca who did the model, and he said he would do that. He said he called them, but they didn't call back, but we're gonna follow through on that because I want him.
Oh, that hasn't been done yet.
Well, he hasn't, unless he did it today and didn't tell us. As far as I know, he hasn't done it yet.
Okay.
So it's important that happen.
Well, then
And
that's.
any other comments that you have about, this is what he's proposed to us, but I don't wanna really finish commenting on those until I know that he's spoken to this other person. So if everyone would give their comments by the workshop meeting, then we can discuss it then or not. But the goal was to have these, whatever the statutes are, our assignment was to get them so that they would be for the third meeting in October, and that everyone would have had their input by then, and then we can ask for public hearing as of that meeting.
Number 11, can that go?
Number 11 is already off the agenda.
No, but would that be ready for the workshop?
I think so. I'll know if I have it ready by noon tomorrow. I've got a few more things left.
Alright.
Now, the electronic meters, can we put that off?
I only had one question, and so we can put it off. Have you
Wait,
run this
We
by?
haven't Sally made a motion to move 7, 8, 9,
Oh,
10,
sorry.
but we didn't have a second or a vote.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone?
Aye.
We're putting it to the workshop.
Just
But
tabling
which
it
would,
for all
you
four
know,
of us?
if there is discussion at the time, we can have it, and if there's not, we'll just
Right.
plow
Exactly.
through.
Right, if he hasn't done what you asked, then.
Well, but we don't vote at workshop meetings.
Right.
Well, we're not gonna vote till the next meeting in any event.
The meeting after the workshop meeting.
Should I? Okay, so we'll skip that. We're gonna table number 6 as well. I just got it.
Until he can run it by the supervisor.
It's a good idea. Alright, anything else? Oh, yeah, there we go. Well, I move we adopt bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Linnea Mason's Children at Play sign.
That's
Nope,
table
that's
to the
table to
24th.
the 24th.
Thank you. And what else?
What did we do with that?
Magellan Behavioral.
They couldn't make it here tonight, so
And-
they actually said, can they come on the 24th?
Oh,
So
She
they
we-
wrote,
wanted,
made us a
Yeah.
nice drawing, so we wanna make sure
Alright.
she's here. I'm gonna move to adopt the changes from Magellan, Behavioral Health Incorporated.
I have a question about that.
Alright, hopefully
And
I can answer.
Nancy was with the doctor, so I couldn't. Do we need to bid this?
No.
Why not?
It's an amendment to a current contract. We already have a contract with Magellan, this is just a rider to it, I believe.
But that's, but what is the rider?
It's renewing it for 2 more years.
Yeah. So that means I'm wondering if we shouldn't
You know, I
have bid
assumed
on
we
it.
hadn't, but if you wanted to double check.
I did.
So you wanna table this till next Wednesday?
If we can, I'd
This is
like to.
July 31st, why are we just getting this now? Oh, maybe till after the audit was done.
Mhm.
Alright, so I guess,
I'd like to just table it if, to determine whether it should be bid.
you got that, Katie?
Yep.
Okay.
You'll find out, okay?
And the IMA, anything particularly squirrely with this, Brian? It's just
No,
pretty standard,
yeah,
right?
it's the copy from the town.
Is there any reason we shouldn't sign it?
The IMA
Yes,
agreement?
it's not signed.
Well, besides that. Yeah, the IMA agreement.
The IMA is not signed, and I asked Katie to check with Rosanna. Rosanna sent her the town's contract
Right.
with Bob. The contract that we are being asked to agree to is not signed or dated, and it doesn't say when it goes out of effect. And that was the whole point.
Into
asked
effect
her-
or out of effect?
Hmm?
Into effect or out of effect?
Well, this agreement shall remain in force and effect until.
Okay.
That's blank, it's not signed, and I thought the whole point was.
Well, I think they filled it out at the meeting and they said 1 year.
Yeah, the proposal was originally 2 years because the committee at the time, the joint committee wanted it to be 2 years, let's
Right.
get this out of the way. But then
Right.
the town attorney supposedly told the town, no, we don't wanna keep everything at 1 year, which I didn't
Quite
get, but anyway, that was supposedly what they passed was 1 year, but I've never seen it, so I don't know why it doesn't say that and why it's not signed, but.
And it,
Yeah. And I
it has
actually-
to be
I
signed.
did ask her for the copy that the town signed.
Was there anything else just in the terms that you saw?
No, but I mean,
But we can approve it, these terms for 1 year, and
Right.
whatever, that's all we have to do.
no, if I understand it, we are approving this for 2 months. It's going to run out December
end of the year.
31st of 2012. And what's the point?
Well, our plan was to do it annually at our reorg meeting.
Right.
That was our
Because
plan.
with our budget cycle, so they'll have
Well, but
to
then
do
we've
it-
been waiting.
They're gonna do it yearly at their budget cycle, which is the end of the year.
That doesn't say that.
So what do we have to do with this?
So what does it say about when it expires for us?
It lets us fill it out.
It never expires.
That's ridiculous.
Remaining until effect until blank. So, I mean, I would just say our calendar year. You know, the thing about this is too, I guess,
It's gotta be agreed to by both parties.
well, they agreed to their version of it, that it's 1 year. So do we match their year, or do we?
That's been my question. And right now,
Okay,
we
so
only have
just
2 months.
table it for.
Someone wanna figure this out and figure out for the next meeting? Alright.
I have a good idea.
What's
What?
that?
Mr. Mayor,
Mhm.
will you please talk with the supervisor and get this straight for us?
No, I think whoever's the public access liaison should.
No, it's you signing it with
I have to
Susan.
sign everything, that's not an excuse. What do you need?
That's a very good reason,
I know.
actually.
Just, but yeah, of course, I don't know what I need to ask, but.
Well, we need to know when they signed it until and what they think we're supposed to be doing.
What we signed it to.
Alright, I'll find out.
I mean, we can just approve it for 2 years and be done with it.
Yeah, maybe we could have just left it
I hate
indefinite.
the amount of time we spend in
We're just not
interviews.
worried about it, 'cause it's only-
Alright, let's move on, I'm sorry, let's go, let's move on. I move that we approve the closure of Huguenot Street for haunted hunt.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
I'll abstain because I'm a member of the board of the
Thank you very much.
Huguenot Historical Society.
I'll move request number 18 by the New Paltz Fire Department, Ladies Auxiliary.
Second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
And do we have a written acknowledgement for 19?
That's gonna be tabled until 17.
Oh, that's the thing that's HSS, oh, thank you.
That's what they're coming to do, the workshop.
Beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Alright, oh, and Kathy's training, that was the one thing.
Is that something we got on the
Yeah, it just
table
got
now?
handed here, I
Yes.
think Katie brought it over. No, that's not the right one.
Alright, it's right here.
I got it.
Alright, not bad.
Is there some place which tracks what employees, how much training they're supposed to have, and then actually how much they actually get? Do we have a record in the clerk's
Spreadsheet
office
or
or something that
I don't know.
we
It's a
would
good
know?
idea. Nothing more.
Probably,
Not that I am aware of.
we should
Every
probably
board
deal with that.
commission chair usually does.
I did speak to, and now I'm gonna formally request, I think in the future, there should be a memo from the department head recommending this,
Okay.
and not from the employees.
Well, I'll still move to approve the attendance at the conference.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And that is it, right?
No, 2 questions.
Precisely.
I'm sorry?
Are we due some minutes?
You are. You will see them for the next.
Okay. And where's your computer?
I won't say
Don't-
those words on camera about
Yeah,
the
don't go
company that
into
we're
it.
currently discussing getting them from because it would be inappropriate and rude.
Oh, okay.
I move we go into an executive session to discuss, what were we, potential lawsuits, personnel matters, and something
And
else.
I'm gonna recommend climate review.
What is that something else?
I think it
Alright.
was, no, because it's two different lawsuits.
Two different
Personnel
potential
matters about a
litigations.
particular
All in favor?
person.
Aye.
Thank
Are
you.
we making any decisions when we come out?
We might be, but we might be a while, once you head home.
May we let?
We
Yeah.
should be
Let's-
making decisions.
Hmm?
We should be making a
Yeah, a couple
decision.
at least.
Joe asked us
But do
to
we need the
direct him.
camera?
I
No.
don't think so.
No, we're almost at the hour that we said
Well,
anyway.
if you're really curious, you can call. Are we off? What happened with the computer?
We had the advertisement for what we were